Hey, this is Alex Davey.
And this is Frank Brooks.
And you're listening to Nova Squadron Radio.
Welcome to Nova Squadron Radio, your home for competitive and tactical discussion on the X-Wing miniatures game. Hello everyone and welcome once again to another episode of Nova Squadron Radio Season 2, Episode 1. I am your host Ed Horn. Alongside me as always is my partner in crime and gaming, one Mr. Chad Brown.
Hey everybody.
And all the way from Worlds, reporting live on this May the 4th be with you, one Mr. Kris Sheriff. Chris, how's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
All right, so this is obviously a relatively big time in X-Wing. We've got X-Wing 2.0 has been announced, so we're going to try to cover all of the new things that have been announced. There's obviously sporadic information coming out of Worlds, folks that are there. Some people, like Chris, may be doing unboxing videos for the ships that are out there and available, that are going to be available. So we're going to kind of cover all the changes and what we know so far. And coming up, we're also going to have one Mr. Sean Dorsey rejoining the show. Really excited to talk to Sean. I haven't talked to him in quite some time, so strap in and get ready for this this fantastic episode of Nova Squadron Radio. All right, we're back, and in the flight deck, we're going to come over the events we've been attending, squads we've been flying, that kind of stuff. Chad, you're probably the only one that most recently been in any type of event. I've been playing in the leagues, but so what event did you attend? What list did you fly? And how well did you do in the league, by the way?
You know what? I missed Tuesday, so I didn't get to actually see where I finished up in the league and everything. I know I didn't make the top cut. I didn't really win any games.
They did not do a cut.
Okay, well then that's...
So you're aware though. So how it worked out is they basically took everyone's placings at the end of the league, who was first, second, third, and then Evan basically laid out all the prize support that they're trying to offload before the next season kit comes out, and then it was just a snake draft. If you were the first player, you got your first pick of a card, and then went all the way down, and then it went back up. I think you were below me, but since you weren't there, I think I finished 7th. You finished 8th. So you weren't there. I think my cousin Ryan was below me, so Ryan got double picks, and then I got picks going back up. So I scored myself a Horton and an Omega leader, which are the only two things. Oh, I really did want the engine upgrade because I've never been able to get around to get the engine upgrade, but
it'll come in handy for you.
Yeah, it will actually.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, no, I like I said, I missed that last night and all that. The way they were just doing that league just didn't really appeal to me, because it was like, hey, play as many games as you want, and then they were going to take your top 5 games. We have a player at our local store who pretty much lives there practically, and he gets in like 50 to 60 some games every league. So naturally, he had top 5 or top 6 games, whatever they were counting, were all 100-0 games. Yeah. Because he's constantly playing everybody who walks through the door, who's in the league, and like I said, he's just there all the time, so he has the ability to, get in 5-6 games a night. And
well, we are going to have a structure change at the store and how events are going moving forward. The store themselves is going to be running the leagues, not having the player base,
which is good. So that's going to give them the opportunity to kind of control what prize support is sent out and how it is distributed. So that's going to leave that completely up to the control of the store as opposed to the players running the leagues. I am still kind of curious as to how they're going to pull that off, because the guy that is usually there on our Tuesday nights, Cody, got a new job, so he's no longer at the store, so he doesn't really play X-Wing. So at some point in time, someone's going to have to help him. So from what I understand, it's going to be Ryan.
Oh, right. Okay.
He is basically going to set up schedules, so it's not going to be where... the one player plays 50-some games. He's going to be like, okay, this week you are scheduled to play this person. Play your game, record it, and then he'll come in like on a Saturday or something, and will...
as if it was a league.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. The league would be a league, you know?
Precisely. Well, he's going to use Cryodex's software, so he's basically just going to have it set up as a quote-unquote tournament that's just going to continue to go through rounds.
Yeah. So, I did miss... like I said, the last of that. Although I did attend the campaign against cancer most recently. That was the most recent event I went to.
Fantastic event for our good friend, the other Chad.
Yes.
For a fantastic cause, by the way. It is, of course, all proceeds go to cancer research It's a cause that means quite a bit to Chad. It's touched him personally, and this event has now expanded to multiple cities. If you need any information on that, by all means, I would check out the Campaign Against Cancer's Facebook page. Chad is usually the one that responds to any requests he's got there, and he's more than happy to get stores involved. So if you want to get interested in next year's Campaign Against Cancer, which will probably be facing second edition rules at that point, get in contact with him on Facebook.
For this particular event, I ran a list that was not quite a list I've ever really run, or ships that people really haven't seen in a while.
Well, it's not it's a campaign against. I know that it has the word tournament, but it's more of a casual fun. Let's come out and play X-Wing kind of event. It's not a smash face. I'm trying to get into. This is my nationals list. I'm testing kind of thing. It's supposed to be a fun day of X-Wing.
And so they came up with an event that took place during it, and basically it was X-Wing bingo. You could buy a card, or they had sheets of paper that had 2 cards to it, and then there was obviously the free space, and it was a regular 5x5 grid. But in each grid, instead of having like, okay, well that's B5, so you mark that up. Instead of that, they had different things that could happen during the game.
Oh, interesting.
So one of the things was play against a rebel opponent, play against an Empire, play against a Scum opponent. Those were all things that could be on there. But a lot of people talked to each other, and we all found out that maybe we only shared about a third of the events on our cards. And then there were events on there where you're like, oh, man, I wish I would have had that on mine. Like, for example, roll 3 blanks.
Yeah, you'd have done real well with that one.
I had that one. It took me till my second game to achieve that.
Oh, only the second game.
The second game was roll all blanks naturally. They also had roll 3 natural crits, which, that did occur with me. I actually did get a bingo. So that was really cool. They had various prizes there. I ended up getting a mat with a tube.
Oh, nice. What mat did you get?
It is the...
Was it the official FFG mat? Or
yes.
Was it... Oh, very nice.
Yes,
That's an awesome prize.
It's a shame you didn't get 2 tubes.
Yeah. It was the Death Star 2 mat, I believe.
Oh, that's nice. I like that one.
So, but like I said, they had all kinds of interesting things. One of the things was fly a ship off the board.
So you had to intentionally do it?
Basically.
Or it's intended to accidentally be like, I need bingo, so whoo, off we go.
It happened maybe 2 or 3 times against me. Somebody flew a ship off the board because it was on their bingo card, and they were just like, do I do it now? Do I do it later? They were trying to figure that out. But I mean, like I said, like there was all kinds of like weird events and stuff to be on there. Be destroyed by a bomb.
Oh, that's interesting. That sounds like there's a lot of
fun. Like that was on there. What was it? Receive a tractor beam onto a rock.
Ooh.
One of them was destroy a ship carrying Palp. And some of the people who went up with me all saw that on their card, and they looked straight at me, and I was like, I'm not running Palp today.
So why don't you discuss the list that you did bring to the event? Because you brought one of my favorite pilots who has not done really well in first edition. Hopefully, well, no, she's not even going to be an Imperial pilot anymore.
I know. It's sad, but I brought my girl Kath Scarlet, Imperial Kath, I should point out.
That just makes me sad. I just realized that Kath Scarlet's no longer going to be in my pool of pilots.
It's okay. Once we get there, I'll cheer you up.
Okay.
So yeah, I ran good old Kath because, me and her had a thing back in the day, and I ran Kath all the time, and then new ships came along, and I hadn't really run her in a while, so I was just like, I'm going back to Kath.
So you're saying that there was younger, newer models that you may have gone to try out, and then you went back to the old girlfriend?
Yeah. She, I gave her quite a unique build where people were looking at it going, wait, you're doing what? There's way better options for this. Why are you doing this? But I gave her guidance chips. I gave her the Andrasta title, Veteran Instincts, Bomblet Generator, bombardier and harpoon missiles.
Nice. You made her a big bomb factory.
People are looking at it going, wait, you're running a bombing fire spray, and you're doing it as an Imperial.
Yep, why not?
They're like, if you're going to run a bombing fire spray, go scum.
Yeah. You do Emon Azamine in his trademark Soyev 1 because it's cheaper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stupid extra munitions.
So it was, she was rather fun. Of course, I had to take the Andrasta title so I could fit Bomblet Generator in there. And the ability to just drop bombs pretty much every turn when I wanted was rather amusing. I had people who would, fly up behind me and they'd sit there and be like, oh, okay, cool. Now let's see. It's range 1. He's dropping that as a 1 stick. All right, I should be fine. And as I go to drop my bomb, I'm like, Bombardier 2. And they'd be like, ah. Secondly, I had Lieutenant Kestel. Munitions fail safe because I need such a thing.
Yeah, because you're Chad.
Yeah. Give him expertise. Auto blaster turret. Real fun. They were like, oh, your missiles don't work. You're at range 1. Haha. And I'm like, yeah, auto blaster turret. Harpoon missiles and cluster missiles on that one.
You've killed Kylo so many times with that stupid auto blaster turret.
Oh, what's that? You're out of my firing arc. Auto blaster turret. And then, just because I had 16 points left, I threw in Dark Curse.
Oh, that's right. I remember this edition now.
So, the way the campaign against cancer worked was we played 3 rounds, and then that determined what kind of pod you were going into. I ended up going 1 and 2. So, I won 1 game. And I kind of won that game because I got paired up against a younger kid who seemed to be newer at the game, and I pulled an Ed where I just curb stomped him. Yeah.
You drew Ed's opponent because he wasn't there.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
I drew Ed's round 1 opponent every tournament he's ever showed up to.
I understand now. Yeah, I understand.
1 Worlds. It happened at 1 Worlds. Come on.
Was it not Nova Open as well? Pretty sure.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Maybe it was Nova.
Yeah, it's been more than once. So I ended up going 1 and 2. I get into the second half of the day, and I ended up going 2 and 1, where I won my first 2 games and lost the very last one. Although the very last one was quite the interesting game because I was up against somebody who was flying 2 of the PS5 scum ships that got that bullseye firing arc.
The Kimagillas.
Yeah, Kimagillas. He had 2 of those with some missiles and all that. And then he had the PS2 Houndstooth.
Oh, interesting.
It was just some fun list that somebody suggested for him. He actually does a podcast, too. He's Radical Squadron, Evan over there. And it came down to Kath and Dark Curse versus that one Kimagilla. And then Kath went away. And then we went for about 15 minutes, 1 haul each pretty much, Dark Curse versus the Kimagilla. And Dark Curse just would not die for the longest time. And then eventually he did get that final haul off there. But it was really, really amusing to sit there and go, okay, so Kath's going up, Kestel's going up. Here comes his 2 Kimagillas, one in front of the other one. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, range 3, target lock, and harpoon both, and that ship went away right instantly, just disappeared.
Well, we don't have to worry about harpoons much longer.
No,
at least not the way that they're written anyway.
Right. So I mean that was kind of a little bit of an amusing thing there because at that point it was just like, oh wow, that ship went away that quickly. Houndstooth you can easily get behind and stay behind it and eventually just wear it down. So
it's like getting behind a space cow.
Yeah, so we were kind of looking at that going, oh, this isn't going to be that hard. And like I said, my dice, I was evading his shots, he was evading my shots, but eventually he just ended up winning out. So I went 3 and 3 for the day.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
No, not at all. Like I said, it was a real fun event. I went last year, and I had won an award last year. Don't know if you remember or not. I was the Imperial player to kill the most scum and rebel ships.
Oh.
And I won that again this year.
Oh, very nice. Good
job. Yeah, that was really, really awesome. I ended up being the Imperial player to kill the most scum and rebels, where I think I might have only played one Imperial opponent, if I did at all, the whole day. So it just kind of like I lucked out in a way. And it was a random choice, so I pick an envelope and I get Corn Horn. I'm like, oh, I'll use that.
Very nice. Well,
I'm like, I'm not rebel, but
the boy wonder could probably use Corn though.
Yeah. But it was the whole thing of like, yeah, I captured Corn. That was my Imperial, victory. I captured him.
Kris, I think I'm going to supersede you because you have way more exciting stuff to talk about, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So obviously we just bumped up and finished up early.
Yes.
All right. So I think I need to break a little bit of the magic on this one. Obviously, I stepped away from X-Wing for a relatively long time, almost a year.
Yeah.
So coming back to X-Wing, I'm like, all right, I need a list to play. I still want to play Imperials. What's good with Imperials? And I saw a lot about these Harpoon missiles, and I saw these Alpha wings, and I'm like, oh, those are kind of cool. They brought the gunboats in. It's one of my favorite ships from the old X-Wing versus TIE Fighter games. And then Kylo Ren and the TIE Silencer. Obviously, that movie, the movie came out. I'm not getting into it. Some people liked it. Some people did not. And that's all I'll say.
There was no Jar Jar, people. Come on.
I think Jar Jar would have been an improvement. Anyway. No, all right. I can't believe those words just came out. Anyway, so long story short, I started kind of like...
Misa don't believe it either.
Should I do this to you from now on? I mean, what are we talking here, man?
He did the Vulcan thing because obviously it's audio only. So long story short, I'm like, okay, so I kind of like pick up these couple of ships. I found a list that Morgan Reed had ran at regionals recently, which basically was Kylo Ren and the TIE Silencer with push limits, advanced sensors, advanced optics, first order Vanguard, and auto thrusters. And immediately you look at that and go, oh, it can advance sensors, push the limit, and the green dial on that thing is absurd. I can just start pulling off all this cool stuff. I still fly ships that I'm supposed to evade with, like I used to fly ships that I used to evade with, which is I don't evade at all. I charge right into combat and I die all the time. And I'm like, why didn't that work out? That's because I don't fly them right. I'm working on it. But I do have to admit that the row squadrons with Deadeye and Harpoon missile, that's all I gave them. I gave them Deadeye with Harpoon missiles, and they fly an awful lot like the old toilet seats used to fly before they got nerfed and then re-nerfed again, where you used to take the contracted scouts with Deadeye and just throw torpedoes on them, and then you didn't really need to worry about the target lock.
Knowing how to play the game. You didn't need to
worry
about
how to play the game or anything. Exactly. You just kind of like point and, hey, look, there's something in front of me. Throw 4 dice at it with its got. Oh, and then I forgot to mention I do have guidance chips on it. So you've got the Deadeye that you still keep the focus. You don't actually spend it to use it. You've got guidance chips on it. So 9 times out of 10, I'm getting 2 hits, a focus, and a blank. The blank flips over to it. So I'm hitting them 4 dice all the time. Super efficient, a lot of fun. They're usually also the first things to die unless it's someone recognizes it's me and then kills Kylo first. It's been a fun list to relearn the game basically. I went 2-2 in the league. Had a bunch of stuff going on, so didn't exactly make as many game nights as I wanted to. Had a lot of fun. Had enjoyed it. I'm like really looking forward to getting back into the game. And then something happened this week that went, hey, all that stuff you're learning, put that down for a little bit.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you weren't really learning it that well. So.
No, not really.
I mean, like the majority of the games we played, I mean, you made the same mistake in each game,
Yep.
And that was you played against me.
I played against you.
Yeah.
That was my mistake. But it does go to show that, like, legitimately, this is one of the things I remember saying an awful lot in the show before, that, practice. I mean, you need to get the games and you need it. So I make so many positioning mistakes that my eyes have not adjusted back to X-Wing. In that I see a 2-bank and say, yep, I can make that, and I end up landing on a rock, or I end up bumping. So I'm still kind of getting my eyes. So like before, I remember what it was like to be able to look at the board and go, this turn will land, and I'll drop here and then boost over there. And it would land exactly the way that I envisioned it in my head. So in my head, I think I can still do that, but my eyes have not adjusted to X-Wing measurements. So I always go, oh, look, that boost and barrel roll I was going to do, since I'm on a rock, now I'm dead, and boom, my ship's dead.
Yeah.
So I think there's still some intrinsic value, even though a second edition of the game is coming, which we're going to get to later, and just getting my eyes readjusted to learning how to fly again. And not necessarily focus so much on the rules, but just moving ships on the board and getting to where that's at. So that's where I'm going to focus my attention until we get to release. But again, having fun, enjoying rolling dice, and showing up at the game store, so that's always cool.
You know, one thing 2.0 is not going to help you with
What's that?
predicting what I'm doing.
No,
I'm still going to know what you're going to do, and you're still going to have no clue what I'm going to do.
And the number of times that I think, oh, he's going to do this. No, so I need to do that. Wait, no, he's going to do that because he knows I know. And then I start playing that Princess Bride argument in my head. But you know that I know that you know that I know. And then I always like, it's paralysis through analysis for me.
I love the thing where you sit there and you're like, he's going to do a hard 2. That's the most obvious move right here. That's totally what he's going to do. No other move makes sense, and he performed the 4K.
Yeah. What? How did he not hit that rock?
Yeah.
All right, so Chris, you've got more exciting stuff to talk about than we do. He does.
Really? I mean, I've been playing with an X-Wing more than like playing X-Wing.
Well, while we're having this conversation, too, why don't you, first of all, you're in Roseville this week on May the 4th at Worlds 2018. Yeah. They may have announced some news. I heard about something.
They might have. They
dropped something. You know, like they do. Like it's a new release, but nothing super huge, right?
It's like it's been changing.
It's been an interesting week. I've not come to Worlds to actually play any games. I did come with a press pass just to cover the event. And then they announced the hyperspace report was going to be happening. I was like, okay, well, it's probably going to be some nice Imperial Assault news. And they announced the lawful expansion the same day. So, okay. Well, maybe it'll just be some Swords Renegade stuff. And then they did the Swords Renegades articles. Maybe some Destiny. I know we've spoiled that one already. I was like, okay, well, let's come down anyway. And they blew us out of the water with X-Wing 2.0. I've got the entire hyperspace event on my YouTube channel, including the Q&A, which they didn't live stream. They only did the questions from the Twitch chat. They didn't stream the questions from the floor. So I've got.
If you are looking for that, even if you go to Twitch and go to FFG channel, you're going to get the ones that came in from the Twitch feed. But then there was a Q&A after that. Yeah. So if you want to hear some of those more little tidbits, you've got to go to DiceHate to hear them.
Yeah. Which is the exclusive, apparently.
Apparently.
Other people record. I don't know who else has got it, but I've got it all. So come to me. If you're probably watching this, you've probably already seen it anyway. So, we never know. Maybe we'll get some people who don't know.
You never know, Chris.
And then I obviously, because you've been watching me play with the T65, a new one, with the adjustable S files. So I did an
unboxing video that I saw on YouTube.
Yeah, I came back to a hotel and was like, okay, let's set all the camera up and edit the video and had dyslexic moments and an unboxing video, I think it is. I fat finger the INEO and didn't see it, so you can come and mock me for that one. But it's going really well.
What impressed me more, though, that you had the first unboxing video, or that 5 minutes after that event was over, somebody had one up on eBay. I'm not much sure which one of the two impressed me more. I'm leaning in your direction.
I feel like putting them on it. So the thing that I don't mind people selling them. I'm not going to sell mine. If I could have got another one, I would have given one away. And I couldn't. If I could have not torn up the packaging, because if you watch a video, I'm trying to be really careful. And you just can't with this new style of packaging. It's awesome. It's environmentally friendly.
Presents at Christmas. He starts off going dainty, and then he's like,
there's no other way to get in it. You just can't.
He wanted to play with the S-foils. I mean, come on.
So I can't post this anywhere because I don't have any packaging for it now. So if I could have got another one, I would have just given it away to one of the viewers or something, because I don't think a lack of X-Wings is going to be a problem for me.
Or any of us.
So I'm going to be buying Swords Renegades because I want to run a better version of my 3 U-Wing list. And it has movable S-foils. And an X-Wing fix with... I keep wanting to call it 1.5 now, because technically Force Awakens onwards,
I was just gonna say that was one of my tidbits of like everyone's calling it 1.0 to 2.0. Like, you guys realize there was a big update whenever Force Awakens came out that adjusted a few more rules than just introducing the Force Order and the Resistance, right? You got that, right?
I mocked Frank today a little bit, a slight little dig. Where, this new damage deck. How many months until I can play with whichever one I want?
All right, so did you get a chance to see it? Do you happen to know if it's the same? I guess one of my this is going to get a little bit into the news for us, but like
we can. That's basically my flight deck. So if you want to, we'll take a break if you want, and we'll just go into it.
I've got a question for you. Since you physically saw the damage deck, then I did not. Is it the same size, the cards? Because moving forward, we're going to.
From what I remember, because I didn't get the demo game, I was busy recording videos when the list went up for signing up for demo games. The other guy I'm here with who's helping with some stuff put his name down, but I don't know if he's actually getting a game or not. It hasn't been called up yet, so I doubt we're getting one at all, which is unfortunate. I believe they are the small-sized American miniature size, I believe they are. But your current upgrade card size and current damage deck size. Although, if you pre-order and get the T65 damage deck, that one is the big size cards.
So you have to pre-order that from FFG, though, correct?
It does say on the article, or contact your local retailer and ask them to start putting their numbers in. So I believe if the retailers pre-order from, it'll be Alliance in the US or Asmodee Canada in Canada, that as long as the pre-orders are in, we should be able to get them according to what it says on the article.
I might have to get one of those because it was one of my minor, the very minor gripes I had is I went through a phase in my life where every upgrade card I had to be in a sleeve because they did not develop the pages for those until much, much later in the life of the game. So in order to keep them in relatively good order, because a lot of people dipped into my box to grab an upgrade or grab this, was to put everything in sleeves. So I literally have tons of those sleeves that fits those cards that now I'm not going to really be using anymore because they're going into standard card size. I like the choice. I enjoy what they did, but then I looked at the damage deck and went, oh, well, I still have a use for these.
Well, luckily, you could just leave the upgrade cards in the sleeves because they're both equally useful.
Equally useful.
You could take them all out and use those sleeves to sleeve up like 15 copies of Twilight Imperium.
That's true.
I think you need 500 sleeves per copy of Twilight Imperium, so...
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, we're getting into quite a bit of the 2.0 talk, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the news, and we'll kind of get into diving into what we know, and some of our reactions from what we're hearing from FFG. So we're going to move into the news right after this. All right, we're back, and in the news, we're going to be covering over, well, actually, the news and the main topic. The only thing to discuss on Season 2, Episode 1, which is going to be X-Wing 2.0 and its announcement at World this week. We are going to be joined by my good friend, and I haven't heard his voice in so long, one Mr. Sean Dorsey. Sean, how's it going, my friend?
Good, guys. How you doing?
Outstanding. It's so good. It's so good to hear him. It's so good to hear him in the audio again. So, all right. So let's kind of cover over some of this stuff. I know there's a lot of other shows out there that have kind of covered a lot of the details, but in case you haven't heard, second edition is coming out, and the very first thing that they highlighted in their announcement, of course, was that your first edition plastic ships are still going to be viable and usable in second edition, which, in my honest opinion, was the only way to genuinely do this. I know that there are some folks that are a little iffy on the concept that there's going to be expansion packs, which cover all the ships. So, in case you don't know, they have broken all things out into factions, and you're going to have a conversion kit for the Imperials, a conversion kit for the Rebels, conversion kits for the Scum. Wave 2, they have broken the First Order and the Resistance out to their own factions, and they will have their own conversion kits coming out in Wave 2. So, and those kits, from my understanding, are going to come out relatively quickly. So this is good. This is good. It basically just replaces all the cardboard components that would have been not incompatible from first edition into second edition. So your pilot cards, upgrades, anything in the cardboard paraphernalia that would have been part of those. I thought I had heard Simone mention in the hyperspace report that there would be enough medium bases in there. So some of the
3 medium bases, I believe, is the content.
Okay, so that is okay. So if it's 3, so again, that's something we should mention, of course, is that they've added some design space in second edition where you had the small base ships and then you had the large base ships, and then you had some of those ships that were kind of in a gray area. I don't know, obviously, which ships are going to get moved into that venue, but the first thing that Frank pointed out was the fire spray, and that the fire spray seemed a little bit too small to be on a large base ship. And I can think of quite a few small base ships, TIE Silencer or K-Wing, that are a little bit too big to be on a small base ship. So I don't know if those are the ships that they're going to convert into those. But...
So I have heard a rumor. This is not confirmed in any way, shape, or form, as far as I'm aware. It might be if someone else is willing to be confirmed on it, but I've heard a rumor that the TIE Silencer, when that comes, is actually getting a new model. It's going to be scaled down and will retain its small base.
Really? Now that's interesting.
Leading into it, this is confirmed that the medium base are thick pegs. So,
okay, so you're not, okay,
yeah, it will be interesting for ships that I assume, like yourself, Ed, I'm assuming the K-Wing, for example, is going to be a medium base. So that will need some form of conversion peg to bring it down. So it'll be
bring it up in that case. Bring it up to a medium base.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how it works, but
actually,
I am going to kind of curious how that's going to work.
Design-wise, that would be pretty easy because you could make the base that is the transition base, the large base, and then instead of putting the little nub on top that would go in, you would just make it concave and put the that weird triangular shape that the pegs fit into just on that.
Yeah,
large,
I could see that. Absolutely.
Large peg.
It's interesting that you mentioned the scaling thing with the TIE Silencer, because I remember hearing a lot of people defend the size of that ship, saying, well, from the measurements that they got from, Lucasfilm, this is the...
Like I say, it's only a rumor, so I don't know.
And I'm totally on board with it, because I was going to mention that when the Hawk was released, and it was released at the size that it was on a small base ship, I remember looking there going, I don't think the scale's right on that. And the Houndstooth is another one that I thought of that I thought,
it's
from
small.
my understanding of the expanded universe, that
was huge.
That the Houndstooth should have been a huge ship as opposed to on a large base ship. So I'm curious if they might even convert that to, I don't know, bigger.
It's already in the Scum conversion kit, so I guess staying as it is.
I'll probably stay as a large.
But I mean, so that is something to point out. So they are going to re-release all of the first edition kits into second edition, so you're going to have new kits that can at some point. Like their hope is to get everything out as quickly as possible, but there is going to be a bit of a delay. Now, what they are saying though is that some of the ships are being revisited for sculpts, and the very first one that they pointed out was the Y-wing. So when you were looking at Wave 1, TIE Fighter and the TIE Advance look really good. The X-Wing looked really cool, but it didn't do the actuating wings, which now we know are coming. We kind of saw that in Saul's Renegades, and now we know, obviously, from the Hyperspace Report and all the videos that have been out there, and including Chris's unboxing video, that the wings do actuate now, which is super cool. So there are other design spaces they can kind of get into and try to reimagine some of these ships. Now, I want to point out, of course, that you're not required to buy the new plastics if you don't want them, but they are going to be an option out there for converting those into second edition. Any other feelings on the conversion kits? I know that I feel like I need to acknowledge that there is a little bit of burn from first edition players converting into second, going like, wait, I've got to go out and spend $50 on a conversion kit to convert all my plastic, and then I've got to buy a core set. But what if I play being in $190 US?
Could I interject?
Of course, absolutely.
You don't have to.
You're right.
You don't have to play X-Wing.
And that's actually the cool part about this, is that if you're so dedicated to 1.0, just play 1.0. There's nothing, it all depends, because Fantasy Flight could still do 1.0 tournaments. I don't know if they will, but that's still the option out there. If you're a TO, you can do 1.0 tournaments. I'm not going to look at 2.0 from that perspective. 2.0 is definitely, number one, for all the people, and the probably, and I don't know what the amount of people, but the majority of people that I used to talk to were ready for a 2.0. So when you're at that point, you know, it's great. So now Fantasy Flight did the best thing that they could. They kept the plastic valid. You know, they never let the plastic be the next selling point, which they could have. They could have done whatever they wanted, where all the ships were invalidated, and then they could restart all new, fresh from that, you know, and put out the new sculpt for all the marginal ships and have new X-Wings and everything else. They didn't. They actually kind of pandered to us, the players and the community, in a way where they're actually going to end up losing money that they could have really. And I'm not saying they're losing money, but the amount of money that they make will be a lot less because they went the role of putting cardboard in an expansion box.
So,
and
have you seen the meme, Sean, of the guy? It's the button pushing guy with a sweat on, and it's like, keep spending $40 to fix one ship at a time. Pay $50 to fix for your full faction.
Right, and that's I saw that, and I was just laughing because that's the true statement. You know,
it absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, some of the stuff that's coming out of these conversion kits, though, I don't know if anyone picked up on it. It was one of the first things that I picked up on during the hyperspace report. But the small base ships are going up to $20 or $19.99 US. They were $14.99 US, and now they're $19.99 US. So there's a bit of a price jump there. The medium base ship, the only one that
Imperial Assault has just had a price rise as well. So
okay, so then
I believe
you had 6 years. You had 6 years or roughly 6 years of no price point change. So let's think about that. You know, when you look at in the U.S., which we are, you know, we all are understanding of U.S. economy. You know, the price of doing business for Fantasy Flight has to have gone up within that 6 years. The price, even doing production, you know, in other countries for the plastic, it still has to have gone up. So Fantasy Flight lost money when you look at margin. They definitely lost money in margin, and now, you know, basically it's probably back up to where it should have been now anyway. You know, $20 a ship for a small ship. I'm okay with that. Plus, you know, your card size is increasing, which people don't understand. You know, production on cards, they're no longer the small. I can't remember what they call those cards, but there's no longer
it's miniature American sized.
Now they're all going to be a single size card, which for them is going to be better to produce, and they can do better stuff in house doing it that way too. And actually, they've been moving to that in their tournament support stuff. You know, with the dual. Upgrade cards on one card, so it was a full-size card and things like that. That
was kind of like a sneak preview of that kind of thing. Yeah.
You know, I'm good with it.
So I don't know, like if you take a look at it, like if I'm looking at the Rebel one right now, and I'm looking at 3 A-wings, 2 ARC 170s, 2 B-wings, 2 Ghosts, 2 Hawks. Like if you had to sit down and go through and buy, and like even the large or medium-based ships, we're looking at 2 Falcons. If they were to go through and have to, if you were a player and you had to go through and buy all new kits, you're looking at thousands of dollars worth of cardboard just to have brought back up what you would have had to buy with the new one. Like to me, it's a no-brainer. I think if you want to do it, honor the investment that financially people have put into this game for the 6 years plus that it's been out, keeping the plastic and asking only a minor buy-in cost of $50 just to catch you up into second edition and to be able to play in. That is not that bad. It's the best solution. They easily could have just wiped the slate clean, say, go ahead and throw all your stuff away, put it on eBay because you're not going to touch it again, and then we're starting from scratch
So
again.
What I would suggest for people, and I know we briefly touched on this offer, is that myself, I was one of those idiots who bought full play sets for ships when I first was like, until about wave 8 or 9, I was still buying full play sets of ships, and I'm not there anymore. I don't need to do that because I bought 4 Phantoms, and I literally did not run 4 Phantoms in a single game. Not even playing Epic.
Yeah.
So my plan is, now we've got the FAQ that has the list of the list I've just read out, the content list for the conversion packs. I'm literally going to take a conversion pack's worth of ships, set it aside, and everything else I will just sell. And I plan on selling them as just the ships. And I'm gonna
just the plastic and help those people out that want them.
Because everything else is irrelevant for the sake of like 3 months worth of play. So I think now is actually a really good time to be selling and buying X-Wing, because if you shop around, you're going to be able to get really cheap stuff because there's a lot of salty people out there. Just so buy their collection and then sit on it, do nothing other than maybe throw away the cardboard so you can store less, and then in a year's time sell it back to the same person for a profit.
Well, and there's other things too. Like I've already heard people like coming up with like a swap and trade. Like, hey, I don't own 2 Ghosts. Never wanted the ship. I don't want them. Can I trade you? I have 3 Falcons. I'd like to have cards. Can I trade you 1 for those?
So another one.
I can totally see that happening.
Another one I would recommend for this is not banking on that just yet. So again, it's another unconfirmed rumor I read. I read this one in one of the Facebook pages. Obviously, come down the line from there's been so much content coming out that I don't think any one person has all of the information at the minute outside of FFG. But I believe if you remember how any pack in X-Wing, like normal one, is laid out that you have a front and back. So I'm looking at the X-Wing one there. So you've got big Starklighter on one side, and then the other side is Blue Squadron Escort. So remember that they are adding in new pilots. So like we spoke about the Y-Wing for Nora Wexley. So how many Y-Wings does it support? Was it 2? I believe it was 2.
Yeah, it's 2 Y-Wings.
So that means there will be 2 pieces of cardboard that say Gold Squadron Pilot on one side, and 2 pieces of cardboard that say Grey Squadron Pilot on the other side. And then there will be 1 Nora Wexley, 1 Dutch Vander, 1 Horton Salem, and 1 pilot who I don't know the name of. So if you give away one of your Y-Wings, because you don't own 2 Y-Wings, you only own 1, you lose half of your elite pilots.
Oh, that's a good point.
So that would be my suspicion. And especially with something like the Ghost, there is a chance that that's a release one. If there's enough for 2 Ghosts, so you need Lawful Rebel, then on the side of one of them can be Hera, Kanan. So you've got 2 Lawful Rebels and 2 other characters. Then Sabine and somebody else. You know what I mean? You can still break it down into different ways. And
one thing I do want to throw into this. So when you're looking at that conversion kit, this is a great time. If you have friends that are in the game, which hopefully everybody does, and they're involved in the community. Well, my suggestion is, and this is just a suggestion, is buy 1 conversion kit and share it among 2, 3, 4 people. Not everybody's going to play this, and this is just a start. If you're in that position where you can't throw the $150 out there, and which is actually what I've seen as a lot of the complaints out there. Instead of doing that, team up with another person. Each pay the $25 or whatever it's going to be, or whatever your price point is at your local game store. Buy 1 and build together. The beauty of this game now is
have
different.
Community conversion kits.
Absolutely.
Between the 4 of us, if we got 1 of each. But if Sean's not playing Imperials, so Sean doesn't buy Imperial 1, he buys Rebels. I'll buy the Scum 1. Chad can buy Imperials, and then Ed doesn't play X-Wing anyway. And
I'm going to end up buying 1 of each. I'm going to be honest.
It doesn't go to tournaments, is what it is.
What I mean is, you don't need all 3 of them on release, do you?
No,
probably not.
So you buy 1, and then the next month. It's not like there's going to be a monthly X-Wing release at the moment. Right. So, but if you budget that's
a good point too, because they've announced this in May. It's not being for public sales until mid September.
So,
you've got 5 months to build that up.
Yeah, and the other thing, and obviously I work in a game store, and we generally don't really do sales per se, but just because we sell at RRP doesn't mean every store does. But buy it online. If if that's
unsolicited plug miniaturemarket.com. I buy from my local. I pay where I play, so I will be buying everything.
Well, if Miniature Market would like to reach out to the podcast and become a sponsor,
for a quick plug. I think we've really kind of dove pretty deep into these kits. There is one other point that I do want to point out with these kits. No longer are we going to be forced into a situation where you need to buy an Imperial ship to get an upgrade that you want on your Scum ship. Yeah. No longer do you have to go out and buy the useless plastic sitting on the shelf. Like, I remember when I first started playing the game, I bought 2 shuttles, not because I wanted 2 shuttles, but because I wanted advanced sensors. I literally bought the ship only for the cards contained in it and not the ship. I love the ship, but didn't want to fly it. He flew it. That's no longer a thing. That's gone. You
don't have to buy them Star Vipers just to get auto thrusters.
Right, exactly.
I've moved your layout around as well. So you need to point downwards if you want to point at Chad now.
But yeah, so it's a good point. I love the design. It's something that they noticed and said, if I'm only a Scum player or I'm only a Resistance player, I only need to buy Resistance ships.
Rune Wars brought it in originally.
Okay. I never played that.
Legion is the same way, and it's a really good move. The only things that will be so if you buy a core set or any of the conversion packs, it comes with all of the cards. All conversion packs come with all of the ship cards. They all come with the same upgrades, apart from the Rebel ones will come with Astromechs. The Imperial ones will come with Imperial-specific crew, and the Scum ones will come with illicits and salvaged Astromechs, I believe.
Yeah, I love the design they talked about. They really wanted to make each faction feel like its own faction, though. So me being an Imperial player and my favorite pilot in the Imperial game of X-Wing has always been Howlrunner. How they specifically pointed her out in Imperials are going to fly like Imperials, very regimented, and they're going to be flying in formations and giving the going off of the quantity is a quality kind of feel. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the designs that come out of these kits. Obviously, there's going to be a new core set. You're obviously going to need this for multiple reasons. The obstacles are going to be in there. You're going to have your damage decks.
So obstacles are 3 asteroids taken from the existing asteroids, and 3 debris clouds taken from the existing debris clouds. So if you own a full set, you are getting repeat cardboard. But
that's a shame. I get why they would have done that, but that's an opportunity.
They have to do it that way. If you think about it logically, if you don't do it that way and you bring out 6 new obstacles, you cannot justify. It's not like when the Force Awakens core set came out and it was the same game. This is a different game, so you cannot reprint the red or blue core set. So how do you get those? How did you get a Mustache Rock?
I think it's good and bad. There's one of the things it does is number one, you don't need a core set. That's one of the cool things about this, is because of that, you actually don't need to get a core set. Now I understand template wise
that's exactly where I was going to go, Sean. I'll let you finish your point, but then I'm going to counter it with the templates.
The templates, yeah. Well, and those are things but the damage decks, there's some type, and I saw it in
the T65 deck.
Yes, the T65 deck, where you can get it, and there's special circumstances where you can get it. Not 100% sure on that myself.
I believe if you pre-order,
right,
you'll be able to
get it. And if you pre-order off Fantasy Flight Site, you'll get the T65 damage deck.
It should be available in stores as well, Sean. Sorry. If you pre-order through your local store, you should still be able to get it if you ask them specifically to mention it to their reps.
And that's cool because then it makes it wider market. But yes, the templates, and that's the one thing people will now. and I don't know enough about this because I'm not in, I'm not at Worlds and I'm not in that scene right now. My understanding is the one you need the most though is the one template because of the way that it's because I'm not sure. I don't
barrel
it's
rolls.
for barrel.
So
yeah, I'm saying
It's
I
how
don't
the
know
barrel roll mechanic works that you need that
Right.
specific one
So
on the center.
I'm holding up one of the inserts now because of me being at Worlds, I can only have the webcam running on the stream.
Mhm.
So the base inserts now have the front arc still the same. They have a bullseye arc printed on every ship. They have a rear arc, so they're fully quartered like the Shadowcaster is. But then they have a horizontal line going across like the Aztec does for the Wookiees, which is if you have reinforce and stuff like that. But that template, when you do a barrel roll, it can either go in the middle, fully forwards, or fully back.
Line on the line.
Yeah, and there is a line down the middle of the of every template, so that it helps with things like doing these barrel rolls. I'm assuming doing D quotes when they happen.
And that's exactly where I was going to go with existing ships that exist that may toy with that design space. So that is one thing with the templates though. So like I know that they're only saying that your old templates are still compatible. It's still the same size. They're still the exact same size. But that line down the middle, I know that barrel roll is the only one that anyone's spoken about currently. But they're only talking about the ships that they have on release.
It's got to be Cloak as well. It has to be.
It has to. I'm in my mind, my second favorite pilot in the X-Wing Miniatures game was Echo, the TIE Phantom. And I'm trying to think of just how she was cloaking and decloaking and how that's going to work. That has to be part of it. So not only do you need the one, but you need the two straight for any of the other TIE Phantoms. And then you need the two bank for how Echo decloaks. So now I'm like, I'm just going to have to break down and buy a brand new acrylic set. Now, it doesn't bother me. I have these wonderful Nova Squadron radio ones that I'm going to have to retire. And I don't know how I feel.
Just draw a line down the middle of them.
See, and Chad and I had that conversation off camera, and that's one of the things that I would love to do that and be comfortable keeping that. The problem I have is I'm going to have some rules lawyer at some tournament somewhere and say, that's not an official line, it doesn't count.
Have your cardboard ones in your bag.
Yeah.
Take the cardboard with you. And like I told him, I said, these are third-party templates to begin with. It's not like they're official anyway. So.
Right, exactly.
That was my argument.
And one of the other things we kind of lost Sean and got him back here for a moment. One of the conversations that Chad and I were talking about is I am kind of curious as to how many first edition X-Wing players are going to stick with it. There are other dead Star Wars games that are out there that are still supported by a strong community. The Star Wars CCG is one of the ones I can think of from Decipher Games, which is a fantastic game. The original X-Wing Miniatures game that Wizards of the Coast had the title for.
Total disrespect.
And then there are communities that are still.
So sorry. So Jerry is heading off to a Goldies now, so we can tell them that we're just recording an episode of Nova Squadron Radio.
For disrespect.
Disrespect. But yeah, there are other Star Wars games that there were community strong enough to kind of keep those games up and viable. So I'm kind of curious if 5-6 years from now we're going to hear about those classic X-Wing miniatures guys that are printing their own cards, the points adjustments, creating new pilots.
So the thing
and fixing the game upon release.
Shall we edit that? I don't know.
Please, because I'm going to get a phone call on that one.
So
don't answer.
Leave it in.
Okay, what was I going to say? One thing I would, but okay, let me frame myself. And
hey, Chris, this is the edgier Nova Squadron Radio.
We're still nice, friendly people. It's okay. Okay, in all seriousness, so for X-Wing, though, compared to those games you mentioned, X-Wing's community is driven by official organized play. So FFG supported kit events that drive tokens and all of that stuff. How many people want to come to an event to win an unofficial alt art card or an unofficial token set? Yeah. Compared to if I could put an event up saying I'm giving away 2015 regional dice, and I'll get a massive turnout for that event because people want to win those. Those official FFG dice are worth what, $250, whatever.
They are.
So I've got a set I could get rid of, and I could give them away. Job done. Or I could go online, order some clear green dice with the same symbols and some clear red dice with the same symbols for $1 a dice. But as soon as they're not official, they're for some reason are worth $1 a dice rather than like $50 a dice. So is that community going to support unofficial play?
Yeah, that's a good. That is.
I think this. So community is a weird thing because if there are those dedicated to the initial that 1.0 that they still want competitive play, they still want everything that they've driven for and done all these events and practiced, they're going to do it and they're going to find a way to do it. And I think the game transcends at that point the drive for the money aspect or the prestige aspect that you get out of the acrylic, the cardboard, the dice, or it's not the cardboard, but the card stock, the cards, the alt art cards.
That was one of the first big whines I heard. Is all my alt cards are now worthless.
I said to Zach and Wade when we were chatting yesterday, so did you secretly draw them all in disappearing ink, and on release, that all of the art's just going to fade into nothing? I just bought an alt Orlando.
It does make those two cards that I've always wanted, which is the alt art Boba, the original movie still one, and the alt art Lando. If those things drop down and they're down to like $5-6 a piece, I'd still buy them. I'd still buy them because I want them.
I think we've lost Sean again. Just carry it. Okay, so yeah, we're having technical difficulties with Sean.
All right, so moving on. A couple of other things. One of the big things, obviously, we've gone ad infinitum about the core set, and we've gone about the upgrade kits or the conversion kits. Let's get into some of the mechanics and stuff that we're aware of. The first and foremost is that point costs are being removed from pilots and upgrade cards. This is a fantastic move, in my opinion. One of the restrictions that they've always had is the minute that they print that card and putting it out into production, there is nothing they can do about the point costs. They can try to fix things like they did with the A-Wing and the TIE Defender, where they tried to build, upgrade cards that lowered the point cost, took a few things away. They went so far as even with the poor Jumpmaster, where they're just FAQing upgrade slot
costs off it.
Exactly, to try to fix it. They were stuck in a design space where they had no other options. And I even think, even going further back, whenever you look at things like the Hawk, from obviously the entirety of first edition of X-Wing, the only ship to ever be printed with a 1 attack die. Huge mistake. It was immediate right away.
So I believe the Hawk now has 2 attack dice confirmed.
So I have
it is a primary turret now. It comes with a turret. So its attack is just a turreted attack.
See, that's awesome. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, this gives them the opportunity to look, and you can see it. If you've been playing this game for any length of time longer than the last couple of years, you can see that there were some really cool ideas when the game first came out. And then they found these cool new mechanics, and then they ran with them. And then they found this another cool mechanic, and then they ran with that. And then all of a sudden, you had older ships that just didn't function anymore. Like, they didn't do what they should do. And when you're looking at the thematic and feel of Star Wars, there's no X-Wing in the metagame. Especially after they debuffed Biggs, the T-65 dropped off the face of the planet. And even at that, Biggs was the only T-65 you ever saw running for a really, really long time. So this gives them that ability to say, ooh, we didn't get the point cost correctly on that upgrade. It's too strong. We need to dial it down. Ooh, we didn't do the point cost on the ship. We never see it in the meta. Why? We'll tone that down. Or vice versa. That ship's a little too strong. It gives them that viability and flexibility to be able to up those point costs. Now, they also said that they're not going to be doing it willy-nilly. Like, it's not going to be round 2 of a tournament, and then boom, they've updated it 2 hours later, and your lists are invalid. They will have, very similar to Magic the Gathering, kind of have scheduled.
I know that, again, this is supposition from things that I know, but I know the design team are a fan of esports. I know the OP team are fans of esports, and like the way patches work in esports, obviously, and you have it for League of Legends, for example. You'll have a big patch before the spring season, and then a big patch before the summer season, and I can see that kind of rotation happening. And if you look at the example of Imperial Assault, the map rotations, we know that there is a map change normally 2 weeks before Worlds, and there's 4 map changes a year, I believe now, and that
I can see them doing a schedule like that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Also going to do away with possibly the Aces and Veterans packs coming out in the future, because those were big things where it was like, oh, well, we need to fix this ship with this ability or fix something about that ship, and those came out through Aces and Veterans.
And that's right there on my list of things. Aces are the only packs that are not being planned to be for release, so good catch on that, Joe.
Yeah, well.
So,
see,
it helps if you read show notes.
Well, I didn't.
It didn't send any out.
Yeah, you didn't send any show notes for me to ignore.
There were show notes? I missed this.
There were not. This is a faux episode of Nova Squadron Radio, so I did not send emails or show notes out.
The fact that we planned it on the fly. I was going to
literally 2 days ago, Chris is like, hey, let's do this. And we're like, okay. And here we are.
So I was just going to break down the card since I'm holding one up at the moment. So we have the Blue Squadron Escort, who is Pilot Skill 2. It has a focus action, a target lock action, and a barrel roll action. It has 3 attacks, 2 agility, 4 hull, and 2 shields. So it's kind of like it had an integrated astromech upgrade. But so see, the card design is really clean and really nice. I really like it. The backs are different, just to show off the awesome backs of the cards.
Hey, out of curiosity, didn't that T65 also come with S foils too?
Yeah, it comes with servo motor S foils.
Interesting.
I can
how
show
that worked out.
I can show that off in a moment. But you
can play with for hours.
Yeah, you get no points cost on it, and there is also no upgrade bar on it. So those are all going to be handled by the app. And then the other thing of note is the Pilot Skill 2, which is here.
It's initiative, Chris.
It's initiative.
I know it's going to be an adjustment for the first one.
And then if we look at Wedge, he is initiative 6.
Another one of the fine points that we can kind of get into. In that Pilot Skill is no longer Pilot Skill. It is now initiative. They do the same thing. They've done this in other FFG games. If you play any of the other FFG Star Wars Miniatures games, there is a first-person token, and that is what used to be initiative. Now it's whoever holds the token. Pilot Skill is now being renamed to initiative, and it caps out at 6. So Veteran Instincts is gone. There are other abilities they kind of intimated to that would potentially push a Pilot Skill over 6.
So it was situational, I believe. There's going to be a force power. Because it's going to be force
that's what
powers.
I thought that they were kind of leaning into.
And I believe, I can't remember if it gave a name for it or something, but from what I remember, it's either Max or either Max or Alex saying that there will be a force power that can bump you up during the engagement phase. Or combat phase, as it used to be called. Attack phase, I don't know.
A couple other side notes. Moving on to some of the other points. Upgrade cards are now normal sized.
Yeah,
seems like a simple change, but so yes, you're not going to be able to use your sleeves for those. The damage deck, the one that comes out of the base core sets, is still the same size. You can still use the sleeves for there, but your old upgrade cards. And this is just one of those things that was always. Not only did it give them more design space to actually write out terms and words onto a card, it gives them more acreage to be able to print those out, which just makes sense. So now we can all do all the same sleeves, everything's the same size, and they even tilt them so that they kind of fit directly under the ship. It looks cooler than these loose cards floating.
So I feel really salty for some reason that the S Files open side doesn't do anything, because the barrel roll's already on the X-wing now. So it doesn't need to give it a barrel roll. So literally, it just doesn't do anything. It's like, before you activate, you may flip the card. You don't have to if you don't want to. And obviously...
Right, but the other side of that card, if I remember reading correctly, it drops your primary attack value down by 1. So, like, I'm in attack mode and I've got 3 dice, or I'm not and I get the barrel roll.
When you perform a primary attack, roll 1 fewer attack die. Before you activate, you may flip this card. It also adds, not to your action bar, this upgrade card has the boost action, and it has a linked action, which would be a focus and then a red boost. Because there are red actions and linked actions.
That's a good segue. Let's talk about linked actions. All right, so that transitions us really, really well into linked actions. Push the limit is no more. I thought it was interesting. I heard an interview with Andrew Navarro, who was kind of discussing the reasons why they removed push the limit from the game, and it was mostly because it had some unintended additions to being able to give pilots with an EPT, the old EPTs, the ability to perform multiple actions. And you end up with weird scenarios where you'd put like a Y-wing with an engine upgrade, for example, which isn't really how the ship was intended to design. And if you put the droid on and gave them the EPT, now that they just ended up with some weird design things that didn't come out the way that they really wanted to. So they've removed the EPT and they've removed push the limit.
You also get a lot more control over your design space now. So whereas push the limit works, so the way push the limit works is that you perform an action, then you get to do a second free action, and then you receive a stress. The way linked actions work is you can perform an action, and then you may perform a second red action.
But those red actions are defined on the card, so it doesn't make any action. It's only the ones that change.
So going through the servo motors closed S foils, you have a white boost normally, or a focus into a red boost. So it's better to talk about red actions first. Red actions are actions that a ship can do, but probably shouldn't. So the Y-wing can now barrel roll. It has a red barrel roll. The Decimator has a red coordinate, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's on the card or one of the upgrade cards that they've got in one of the spreads. It might be a Lambda has a red coordinate. Okay, one of the Imperial ships.
Or it's the new ship, the TIE ship that's coming out from.
Maybe it was that one. Yeah. But
so that's the one that I think that. And they have that crew member that turns it to a white one.
Yeah. But anyway, so they have red actions, which you can do this action, but you will receive a stress. Linked actions at the moment, from what we know, are a white action followed by a red action. And that means
effectively the same effect of having pushed the limit, but
it isn't, because Sutnia Fel can't focus evade. Because
that we know of.
Well, as in, so I know what Fel's ability does because they've said Fel's token gives. This is very rabbit holey, but basically you now have ship abilities. So a generic pilot might still have a ship ability. For example, the interceptors have, I believe it was auto thrusters. They said they were putting on them.
Yeah, and is a different.
Yeah, it's a different thing. I know what the TIE Advanced does. That was in one of the videos I watched. The TIE Advanced have advanced targeting computers, and they let you, if you've got a target lock, you can re-roll one dice without spending your target lock. I'm pretty sure that's what that.
And that's just a ship native ability.
So they had if you run a Tempest Squadron or a Storm Squadron, one of the generics, it still does that.
Yeah.
Then, if you're running Darth Vader in a TIE Advanced, he still has the ship ability and his pilot ability. So that's a convoluted way of getting back to linked actions are part of those abilities that the ships can do, regardless of your pilot. By forcing it to be, I believe the interceptors are a focus. No, I think it's a focus boost or a focus barrel roll or something like that.
But not boost barrel roll.
Yeah, I think I'm going to see if I can pull it. I'm sure it's on one of those spreads. But yeah.
Okay, well, while you're looking that up, we're going to kind of move on to some of the next one. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so basically, like, you can no longer have the conversation of, well, what's better, EPT, push the limit, or veteran instincts.
Right, yeah, no, exactly. So both of those
and you can't go on. And there's no engine upgrade, or TLT, or Harpoon.
Yeah. So that's one of those things that there was those anything that was like something like that was an auto include EPT. They were like, So it gave them the opportunity to do two things. You had a bunch of ships, especially towards the end of the first edition's life, where you had those titles, but because they didn't have the real estate on the card, the physical real estate on the card, you knew that these were abilities that were intended to be on the ship natively, but because it was an upgrade card, it gave people the opportunity to not take that native ability and just not take adaptive ailerons if you didn't want that native move. And the example that Frank Brooks gave, of course, was that ship moves very, very differently when it's not doing the adaptive aileron move like it was designed to. So now they just force you to do it. They say that you've got the title of the ship, and then boom, here's an ability that becomes based on the ship. Push the limit was really kind of designed in that second wave, third wave era, where that's how interceptors were designed to fly. But because it was forced into a design space of only being an EPT, not all of the interceptors flew that way. So now they have that ability to baseline every ship to be able to fly a specific way, and it doesn't fill the hole of the talent slot so that you can still add on to that and then really make those ace pilots feel like ace pilots.
Yeah, and I also like, too, that they've made the ships, like given the ships kind of the innate ability rather than, having it be an upgraded ability. I think that's a pretty good way of looking at the future of the game because, when you designed, even if you had 100 points, 200 points, it doesn't matter. It almost became, if you were flying a ship, there was an auto include. And, you're wasting points on an auto include because you had to have it, auto thrusters, push a limit, like you talked about, and a couple others. When you went to the TIE Advanced, you had the advanced targeting or whatever it was, the targeting computer.
Also a fixed card, by the way.
Yes, and that's the thing is that, not only were they throwing cards out there, but they're throwing cards out there to fix. Well, if you make it an 8 within the structure of the actual ship, you don't have to do that anymore. And the other thing is, it's the beauty of it is, if it's too powerful, if it proves to be too powerful, they can just pull that ability off the ship. And same with the only thing, and I don't know if
so
correct. Well,
so I'll let you finish, Sean.
The thing that what I was hoping, the one fix that I was truly hoping that they would do is with focus. And my thing about focus, and I thought this day one, and I've thought it ever since, and I've talked about it before, and is focus. I wish that they would have had it where focus affected one die and not all dice. So if you roll 3 focus, you can spend a focus to affect one die. Now I know they kind of did it a little bit. It looks like with Luke's. If I'm not mistaken,
force powers and stuff.
The force powers.
Yeah, the force powers in general do it, but then there's the
So before we get too far on this, I just want to roll back to Sean's point about.
Go ahead.
So because of the way they've not put upgrade slots and points costs on the ships, they did say that the primary way they will look to balance stuff is through points cost and upgrade options. So if something like Advanced Targeting Computer is printed on the card and proves to be too good, they will just increase the cost of it, or maybe take off a system slot or something else. They will remove that ability will stay on, but it will become more expensive. Whereas up to now, I don't believe there has been a points cost change in X-Wing as a fix, other than through a title card or something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they've used cards, the decrease points off cards to try to decrease the points on the ship.
Yeah, but they've never increased the point. Like, for an example, if you made base Jump Masters 5 points more expensive, you don't need to take all that crap off them. But they wouldn't change the points cost through an errata.
More like they couldn't change the point cost.
Well, so they've done it in Destiny, and I know it's a different game.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So
wasn't there something in Imperial Assault too that they adjusted point costs through FAQ?
I don't think it was point cost. They
they changed abilities and stuff.
Yeah, the abilities is what they changed. The beginning they had the 4/4. My suggestion in the design side was always instead of stripping the Imperial Guards down and making them completely different figures, just increased the cost of the officers at one point, and it completely, neuters that list because now the 2 point is now 3, so now you can't include 4 officers. And the idea, I don't think Fantasy Flight has ever had the idea up to this point where changing point costs was a viable way of fixing things. I get it, but I like this system where they can do it now as long as they're open about it. That's going to be the key piece too with the community, is them saying this is why, kind of like Magic the Gathering does with their ban lists. Be open, be upfront, and let the community know right away that it's going to happen. And then have that ban list, or whatever the change. Always have a change log.
So
if they can do it.
I will show you a picture of the app. Now, if you go to the FFG website and scroll down to the organized play, they have a spread of what the app's going to look like. I'm going to hold it up for hopefully people to be able to see. So down here, you've got a tab that you can click on the app that says patch notes. So within the app, you have to use to build. Well, you don't have to use it. That's another misconception. On the FFG website, there will be a PDF version of all of the files with the points cost for everything. So you'll be able to print that out and do it with pen and paper if you want to, which means that because that information is going to be available in a written format, that third-party squad builders could still exist. It's not going to, nothing has to change if you don't want it to. But within the app, the patch notes are planned to be there. I was chatting about this with OP and the design team today, that what I would have liked to see is that within that tab, if you click on patch notes, it's a multi-step thing where you have the FAQ side of it and the actual reasonings behind it. So it's like a multi-stage system where everything is at your fingertips. And if you play X-Wing, you are forced by using this app to have access to the FAQ. So there is no reason to not read it. As a TO, that would be really... Sorry, yeah, go on.
That would be a really big change in their behavior, though. Like, every time they've ever released an FAQ, they've released an accompanying article on their website explaining, at least to some degree, why the changes were made. So, I find it difficult. So, patch notes then. Yeah, exactly. I find it difficult to believe that they wouldn't continue that behavior with at least that.
But that's it. They can still publish it on the website as well, but it being contained within the app is awesome for me anyway. And especially even because the way patch notes normally work as a gamer, it gives you what the change is, what it was, what it's changed to, and a reasoning for it. So that's pretty exciting that it's going to be contained, from what we know at the moment, because the app we were told isn't finalized yet. It could still change. But at the moment, that is the plan with it.
Well, good. Let's hope moving forward that's what they continue to do. I agree with you. So I do have a couple other points I want to cover. We've still got quite a few things we haven't even touched on yet. For those of you, this is a self-plug. If you go to Chris's YouTube channel, the DiceHate Productions, and look at the unboxing, you will see some of the quick build cards. Now, the quick build cards, to my understanding, are designed to match with the things that come in the core set and allow players to be able to not necessarily need to work with points. This is more of a fuzzy, casual game.
It's a threat level.
Right. It very much reminds me of what they did with narrative play in 40K. And for those of you that do not play that game, they basically wanted to say, we just want you to toss models on. Here's a rough guess at how much these points are as far as balancing. They weren't perfect. They never were perfect systems. But if you're just doing kitchen table, I want to play with my kids and kind of give them the same idea, this gives you that ability. So every ship is going to come with a couple of squads based on threat level to allow you to just toss something on the table. Of course, if you are a competitive gamer, get the app, go online, get the PDF, whatever way you need to do it and be able to calculate the math correctly. But this does provide you with an option to play more fuzzy, casual games.
And I think that's a great way to get new people in, because, Fantasy Flight's probably, and this is a guess, but probably looking at this, the barrier to entry got pretty high at the end there for for people to get into the game, whether they want, if you're doing it casually, there's never a barrier to entry because you're going to buy what you want and play what you want. But for the competitive side, the barrier to entry got really high at the end, towards the end of this 1.0 system, where to compete, you're so far behind in upgrade cards, pilots, ships, that you're spending a lot of money just to get to a level of owning a list that could be competitive on the table. So this is the best entry point I think I've ever seen a game come in at a 2.0, because let's just look at what Fantasy Flight has done when they reboot Game of Thrones card game, when they rebooted these other, the other systems that they've done it from the ground up. You have to start from the bottom. This is awesome. This is just a great way, in my opinion, of doing a good service to the X-Wing community in starting it out, and then bringing in new people. The people that really were on the fringe, wanted to be competitive, but just couldn't afford it, or were intimidated by the volume and the amounts. Now you're coming in ground level, just like everybody else, and as far as the product goes.
So the thing I really like about these quick build cards is obviously you have a varying threat level of how good this build is on this ship. So, for example, Big Starlighter's quick build is selfless and servo motors, and that makes him a threat level 2 or yellow. Wedge comes with like a whole host of upgrades and is threat level 3, but it's designed in such a way that if you buy the T65 pack and you also own a core set, you can build this build. So
yeah, and I think that's really key, especially for entry for new players, because they're going to need a core set and then an expansion.
Yeah, and that's the way the quick builds are being designed, is that it's to draw in new people. They can just buy their models, literally open them at the store and play right away. They don't need to worry about learning the rules for building lists, how upgrades work. You just take all of the cards that are on this quick build, put it on the table, and have fun. Did we talk about the OP side honor or offer? Can't remember now.
We talked about OP off, but I was hoping to save that towards the end.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Yeah, that's fine.
If you want to bank that one, we'll kind of come back to it. We still have a couple of core mechanics that we're aware of that I do want to touch on. We haven't even touched on the Force yet. Something that has been absent from the game. Something that I've always felt was kind of like, it doesn't make sense to me why Darth Vader, even after the fix, wasn't a more he's the best pilot in the galaxy. Luke Skywalker, any of those Force-sensitive ones, they just didn't feel forcey. It just felt like they were just another pilot, and their ability, either based on what was printed on the card, either made them good or it didn't. Yeah. That is now being altered to be allowed to add Force tokens to the game. Now, they have two functional purposes. One, you can exhaust, if I want to use an Armada term, or spend a Force token to change.
So all of the tokens, Ed, are double-sided now. So I'm holding up one of the the charges. So it starts off yellow and turns red. So
but that also leaves that game design space to be able to flip them back over as well. Just like with Force tokens. Like, I think I've seen Luke's ability that says if he's a target of an attack, he gets to flip one back over.
Yeah. Yeah. So normally if you can regenerate 1 force power per end phase up to your force power stat on your card. So if you don't have a purple stat block on your card, it would be just after shields normally. If you don't have it, you can't have force charges, so you can't bank any. If you have 1, you start with 1 and can bank 1. And that's for, I believe we spoke about Ezra in the early seasons of Rebels. So there's potential that, in fact, that ties into the subtitles thing, that they were saying they can start doing pilots in different eras because of the subtitles. So yeah. I can't remember what Ezra's subtitle is in the Sabine's TIE Fighter that it shows, but if Ezra could appear in an X-Wing. I've not seen the last season of Rebels, so don't spoil it. La 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 la.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I've got no idea. But they could put him as an old man in the Resistance. Yeah, I don't know. But they could do and just change his subtitle. and that lets him have different abilities and different stats and everything like that. So
it genuinely is going to function similar to how energy tokens did originally when Epic first came out, where they didn't start off with any, but they built up over time through your maneuvers.
No.
Which, since I've said the word Epic, I do want to mention real quick, side tangent, no Epic love FFG? What the what?
They did specify they have plans for it.
No chain.
Yeah.
Nobody plays it.
Oh no, go ahead. By all means, Chris, fill that in.
They do have plans for Epic, but they're concentrating on getting Wave 1 and Wave 2 out, so you can actually play normal X-Wing with the stuff you own already.
Yeah, so Epic is coming, so relax. They're not in the conversion kits. My anticipation would be some type of Epic upgrade, because as it stands right now, there's only 5 ships. So I would anticipate a very similar conversion kit coming for Epic scale as well.
There's also 5 people who actually play Epic.
Well, man, the Epic doubles event went until midnight and had loads of people playing.
See, there you go.
Yeah, but outside of that, do they ever play Epic?
So outside of going to Worlds and playing Epic, does it matter?
Outrider
exactly.
Cup. I'm going to again Outrider Cup. But there's other things as far as the Force I do want to touch on before we kind of move off of it. They also mentioned that like the Vader pilot and Vader crew card, that being a crew member like our man Palpatine, can add Force to a ship, and they also have Force powers that can be used. Now, in the Bella Lost Souls video that I was watching today, the Darth Vader had a Force power, which was Sense, that he could spend tokens to do something else. His pilot ability says that he spends a Force token to get an extra action. So it's basically the same thing he did in first edition.
I believe Sense is you can spend, if you're at range 1, you can spend a Force charge to look at their dial.
Oh, that's hot.
And I believe, I can't remember exactly, because I've only seen this one in passing on one of the articles or in one of the spoiler things. I think it was maybe on the FFG forums or one of the Reddit posts. I can't remember. It might be a comment on my YouTube video, actually. Tangent, sorry. But I believe you can spend more charges to increase the range. So you can spend all 3 to look at it at range 3. I believe, I don't know. I could just be lying completely and making that up.
But that adds that element of very Star Warsy Force users being better at things than others. I love the mechanic. I really do.
Do you not? Are you not going to tell them what Darth Vader's normal power is?
Well, his normal. I thought I mentioned it. His normal power is to spend that Force charge to be able to get his second action.
No, to spend a Force charge to get another action.
Right.
So if he has 3.
Oh. Wow, I did not pick up on that. Wow.
So,
all right, so now he feels like Darth Vader.
So, I'm going to have to check that that's right now, seeing as I just saw how excited you just got.
Here's the thing, though, about this whole Force powers and everything. So, if you go by, like, you know, the movies and such, there's not that many people out there who could actually use the Force. So just upon hearing that this is going to be something that like those who are like Force sensitive or whatever could use, it doesn't really sound like it's going to be that many characters or anything in the game that are going to be able to use this.
That's a good point. So if you think of first edition X-Wing, where the game is now, obviously you've got Luke and you've got Darth Vader. You've got, maybe you put Han Solo as a Force sensitive, maybe. But then you get characters like Ezra. You've got crew obviously like Palpatine. You've got crew like Leia. You've got crew like Maul. But then we can start getting into some of those characters that we haven't seen in X-Wing yet. Maybe there's a Yoda crew card. I don't know. Maybe there's an Obi-Wan crew card. I don't know. Then we start talking about adding some of the other things. So you're right. While it may not be a major factor in the game, it will definitely give those characters who are those that little extra special. The only concern that I have is that it's a little too special. So, and this was the concern that I was talking to Sean with, is that this is one of my areas where I love everything that I've seen so far with what they're talking about in the second edition, but my main concern is the force mechanics and how easily it could be abused. But if that's the case, they can adjust that.
So
and real quick on that point, the other thing though about the force mechanics is going to be, so let's say the another action is actually true. Darth Vader takes an action, takes another action, takes another action, takes another action, spends all 3 of his force powers. He's only going to get 1 back.
Yeah.
So he's still limited, and it's a limiting factor. I like the fact that now if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb yet.
You can't miss so much.
I know, yeah. But my thing is that if there's ways to regen force powers, and I think Luke has an ability that does that, then I don't like the regen side if you're getting it outside of the 1 per turn, because I do like the fact that you can, being a force sensitive or having somebody in there that can do something really good once every 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So they did talk about the force being intrinsically linked to focus, and the standard use for a force charge is to convert a single focus into a success, basically, so either a hit or an evade. Obviously, so Luke gains 1 back when he becomes a defender. So if you shoot at Luke when he has full force charges, his ability does nothing.
Yeah, so that reminds me of how, what's the K-Wing pilot? Miranda, how she functions. How she technically has that shield generation power. However, if she's doesn't have the ability to shoot, the power doesn't function. So there are ways to turn it off.
Yeah, and whilst obviously it will get a charge back at the end of a round either way. So what you can effectively do, the first time someone shoots at Luke, you spend 1. So basically Luke has his current ability still built in, where you can convert a single focus to an evade. Because you do it the first time, and then you'll regen it back at the end of a turn. If someone shoots you again, you'll get 1 beforehand. So you always have an extra token in the bank, effectively. And it's when you become a defender, so if they just miss, you don't even need to worry about it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So my thing here is like, not that I totally care about Scum, but Scum aren't really known for having force users.
That is a good point.
I mean, they have, you have Maul. But outside of Maul, how many other force users are in the
Ventress could probably, I could see Ventress being pretty good in the Shadowcaster. I could see her doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So
is it going to be something where this is going to be Scum's going to be lacking in this ability, and it's going to be more Rebel and Empire?
Yeah, I could see that, but Scum's going to have access to the illicit slot where others aren't.
Right. So, I mean, is that going to be part of the balance to it?
I think so. I think that's the design.
Yeah, they have the illicit abilities, but they're not really going to have a lot.
Ventress isn't in the Scum article. It's sad times.
What?
I was hoping that there was a Ventress in one of the spreads, but there isn't on these.
I'm sure they're hiding her, but I can imagine that she's going to be one of those. So I agree. I definitely agree that there's going to be some areas where individual factions are going to be failing, but I think that because they've had the ability to design an entire faction from the ground up with all of the ships currently in first edition going into second edition, they have that ability to like, okay, maybe Empire or maybe I'm already thinking like I totally forgot about Ahsoka is also in the Rebels. Like maybe Rebels are a little bit heavy in the Force, whereas the Empire only has Kylo. It's got the Emperor, and it's got Darth Vader, and then maybe a couple others that come out in future releases. The Scum might not have nearly as many, but they definitely.
I had heard again. I think this one was on Reddit that there is a generic Inquisitor in a TIE Advanced Mark 1.
That's another good one. I totally forgot about that.
Inquisitor. There was a Mara Jade crew.
But not as in a generic Inquisitor, not the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, no, like
so one of the
others.
One of the generic pilots is a Force user. I could
totally see that.
So you could take a full list of just Inquisitors.
That would be awesome. Oh, I'm so excited. So excited. All right. So the next thing on the list I want to cover, turrets. It's one of those things from the first time I started seeing them, I was like, this doesn't feel right. They get to shoot in a 360-degree arc. And it's one of the first areas, I think, of the game that really deviated from flying.
X-Wing easy mode, I think I used to swag people off for
exactly.
flying.
And I know Sean's going to be really familiar with the Rebel list that was the 2 Y-Wings and the 2 low-level...
Convoy.
Yeah,
Rebel Convoy, thank you. It's just point and shoot. That's all it was. That's gone.
Point, shoot, and block.
Point, shoot, and block, exactly. So
no more 4 Ys with TLTs?
No more TLTs. No more TLTs.
They're gone. So now we're going to end up into an area where turrets are going to work very much like the Shadowcaster did, where they are mobile firing arcs. You do have a handful of ships. You also pointed out to me the Decimator is probably going to know this. We know that they talked about the Falcon, but the Decimator also has guns on the top and bottom too, where you're going to have either the 180 or the single firing arc. And you're going to need to think. You're going to need to be able to think and plan on where you're going to be pointing those guns, because if you happen to be pointing in the wrong direction, you can't shoot that way.
So you have to get good at the game.
Yeah, you have to actually know how to fly. So I am a huge proponent of this. I love this change. I think this is going to be... and that's one of the things that they hit on multiple times in multiple areas that I've seen. They really wanted to focus on returning to flying, and that not making it a what's the nastiest combos that I can come up with all these upgrade slots that kind of compensate for my ability to fly, or if you're a good pilot, intensify how good I am by having all these other tools in my toolbox, plus I'm a really good pilot. Now it's really going to get back to the core of the game, which is flying spaceships on the board and making pew-pew noises, and I'm a big fan.
Have you seen Gunner? I'm pretty sure that's in here.
I have not seen Gunner.
Yeah, let's find Gunner.
I don't know where you're finding this stuff, man.
There we go. It is in the second or third spread on the Rebel article. It is now called Veteran Turret Gunner, and it takes up what looks to be a gunner position, because the symbol is different but not the old crew symbol anyway. So if this is a new crew symbol or an actually different slot, because there's nothing printed on the cards, so we could just change it for however we like.
Yeah, just change the icon itself.
Yeah.
Or it could be a gunner slot.
Yeah, Veteran Turret Gunner, which uses the same artwork as Gunner, is after you perform a primary attack, you may perform a bonus turret attack, is what I assume this symbol means, using a turret, so it's like a mobile arc symbol thing, using a mobile arc you did not already attack from this round. So no more shooting someone, missing and shooting them again, or token stripping. It is now a gunner in a different turret shooting somebody else.
Yeah, I like that. And since we're talking about things that you can't do anymore from First Ed, I know Chad, we hit on this. A complete side arc, but this made me trigger that thought process. No longer are you going to have the target lock for range. It's one of those pro moves people will do. Like, I'm going to make a target lock that I know I can't make, but oh look, I know that you're at range 1, you're at range 2. Those two ships are within range of each other. Now it's a situation, if you declare that target lock and you don't make it, you fail the action, it's gone. Yeah. And they also said that about other abilities too, like
any action you declare that doesn't complete is gone. So coordinate, target lock, boost, barrel roll, anything like that. If the action fails, you lose the action.
Yeah, fantastic. I felt like it should have been that way the whole time. It really bothered me that was a part of it. It always felt like cheating to me. I would never do it. But I've seen, and it has been done to me, where people are like, I'm going to measure for target lock. Well, you're measuring for target lock for a ship that I can tell blatantly is out of range.
It's turn 1 and I bumped.
Yeah. Yeah, like, come on. So that is now gone, and I'm a huge fan of that. But that's a complete sidetrack.
Yeah, the legal way to pre-measure. I mean, it's like you could tell you definitely need the range 5 stick from Epic to check that guy, but you know.
But you're still calling it so that you can see the ranges. Moving on to a couple other things. I know we've kind of touched on how the Force works. It's very similar to how some of the consumable upgrades.
Midi-chlorians.
Get out. So,
I haven't even gone to the bad area where I was going to, even go with all that stuff because everybody who plays Destiny knows that the cards are
don't feel so good about it.
Yeah. So Destiny draws the cards and all that from all the Star Wars movies. So the prequels are actually in Destiny. So because they're in Destiny, does that mean we'll eventually see the prequel stuff now? Well, see, 2.0?
Now I think they've opened up that design.
like Ventress.
Yeah. That because they keep doing that. It's like, oh well, we're doing Rebels and we're doing Rogue One, and here's Ventress. It's like all this stuff is pre-4, and they were always like, "We're not doing anything from before Episode 4."
Ventress is officially dead before the start of Episode 4 by canon.
Yeah. But now they've opened up the ability with breaking out the 5 different factions. They could conceivably do a droid army.
Yep.
You can do
Republic.
You could absolutely do everything from the Clone Wars era. Everything.
I can get Anakin in the Naboo Starfighter?
Get out. Okay. So, Ed, I'm currently holding up an ion torpedo card for you to talk about how charges work and range bands.
To get us off the prequel range. So now they're adding charges. It's basically, it functions similar to how extra munitions are. It basically gives you a number of times of how many times you can use something. So proton torpedoes, for example, is 2 charges, and you only need to spend 1 to use it, which means you get 2. And once they're gone, they're gone. The very similar things.
You did math correctly that time. Wow.
How do you like that? I also saw one for the cluster missile that comes with 4. And each time you want to spend an attack, you have to spend all those tokens. So I love that mechanic. It's a consumable resource that you can use at will during the course of the game. I love how that works. It's one of the things originally when the game was designed, and we talked about it infinitum for probably the first year of Nova Squadron Radio, where munitions exist in the game. Nobody uses them because they're too expensive. You have to spend a target lock or a focus to use it. You have no way to modify the dice, and they're no good. They're too expensive, and now all of that is gone. And now you only need to be able to spend those charges to expend those munitions, and then use your abilities to reroll the dice. I'm a huge fan of it.
While we're on the secondary weapon part of this, secondary weapons, as in turrets and cannons that we know now, suffer range bonuses and penalties.
Yeah. So so you can get an ion cannon turret at range 1 is 4 dice attack. But ion works very differently than it used to before, because it used to just be able to just load it up on the ion tokens. Now it's the first damage goes through, and any other subsequent damage that goes through
inflicts all remaining damage results inflict tokens instead of damage. But then you perform you can only perform a Falcon action for each and for you. That's what ion tokens do now, I believe.
Yeah, it's a 1 blue action. It's a 1 blue movement forward, and we should probably touch on that in a second. A 1 blue action forward, and you can only perform a focus action.
And it shuts down droids as well. I heard.
And no longer are you going to be, you've been ioned, so I can just basically ion you off the board. Now you're kind of in a situation where you still have something that you can do. And again, quick tip of the hat, since I did mention it, good tip of the hat to the FFG folks for recognizing that we did have players in our community that were having issues with colorblindness in the dial. That's something that they didn't have to do. That is something that was clear, ease of use, and easy living for the game. Fantastic. It's going to be difficult for me to change my vernacular from green maneuver to blue maneuver. In 6 months, I'll have it down. I'll be good.
Yeah. So, do you want to read out the X-Wing T65 dial? T65 X-Wing?
If I could see it, I would be able to do that, but I don't have it.
So, it has the blue 1 banks and 1 forwards. It has all of the 2s with the banks and straight being blue. The 3s, it has...
all of the 2s?
Okay. 2 hards, 2 banks, 2 forwards. Then it has 3s.
It's like an interceptor dial.
Yeah, are you X-Wing?
The blues are only the banks and the straight.
Oh, okay.
Come on, keep up.
I thought you were going with 2 turns. Like, what is this, an interceptor dial?
The 3s, it has 3 Talon rolls, and it has the 3 hards, banks, and straight, 4 straight, and then a 4K. And the dial is now fully open, so you can see all of the moves at once. You don't have to rotate through to look at that slot. And
I like that.
And the front of the design has changed. It's all fancy.
Yeah, they did something I can't believe it wasn't on the original, that all the dials are not exactly the same color. So, like, you have Imperial are blue. You have Rebels that are red. Like, something like... I don't understand why that wasn't something that was different before. How many times did you ever have someone pick up your dial? How many times did that ever happen to you, where someone reached over and picked up your dial?
Only once or twice, but when they're playing the same faction.
Yeah, they are different colors, but this is just a different style. It's all...
Yeah, no, I like the open face style.
There's the maroon for the Rebels, the Empire's got that like darker gray, like a charcoal, and then the Scum's got more of like a brown, because they're crap.
Because it's scummy.
I do wish, and I don't know how to have corrected the problems, but we saw it multiple times where people would be nudging accidentally and altering dial movements. And I wish there were a way, and I don't know how you would do it. Now, obviously, they know
the way it works on this is the dial with the maneuvers on it are the same size. So if you've bought the upgrade kit, this dial will still fit inside it.
Mm-hmm.
The bit that goes on top that it rotates around is now bigger. So that means, because the top and bottom of the dial in current X-Wing dials are the same size, so the top sliding, because you pick them up like this. So I'm holding it on the edges. If you're holding the edges of this, you are holding the top part of the dial, which your finger then does not contact the bottom part of the dial. So theoretically, in practice, it's impossible. If you pick it up as I'm demonstrating on the video, it's impossible to turn it. So form.
No more. Yeah, people pick it up and their thumb rotates it as they pick it up. So it's like, oh, look, I did the correct thing.
We have a guy in our store that's pretty good. He doesn't do it in games, at least not that I've seen.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Chad's got a little salty on that one. But he is capable, because his dials are a little bit loose, he can just as he's turning, twist it up and alter the maneuver. I don't know if there's any other way to be completely honest. I don't know if there's a way.
So if you want to cheat at X-Wing, you can cheat at X-Wing. That's a completely different conversation.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And if you want to cheat at a game to get good, then I don't really.
It's not really getting good, is it?
Yeah, you're not getting good at the game. You're cheating,
especially when you only play at the store level. I mean, come on.
Okay.
Dude, there are people. How many times have we seen people that have gotten caught on official streams altering their dials? Like, come on, man. Come on.
Who wants to see Egg cry?
And what kills me, to get a complete tangent, what kills me on that one is that if he was brazen enough to be able to do that on an official FFD stream, he did it on every other game that he wasn't on camera, and it's part of his gaming practices to alter dials, and he didn't think, because he was on stream, that anyone would have seen it. And that sickens me. That should have been a permanent ban from the rest of the game.
And like people who alter dice, and... There it is!
Come on.
I got him!
Lost a regionals to a player that I found out later had a tendency, because he'd roll dice here and I'd be looking here, had a tendency to, and he'd been tossed out of events because he was altering dice rolls. That is forever going to be my biggest regret in X-Wing, is not punching a kid in the face. Anyway, not that I would encourage violence.
I do.
Yeah, of course you do. So I think a lot of the other points we've already kind of covered in the stuff that we've covered. Barrel rolls, we've talked about barrel rolls and how they do. Highest pilot skill, I think we've covered with 6, but there are ways to kind of go above it. Linked actions, the evade.
I don't think it can take you above it. I believe it can modify you up to. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, no, and again, we're still kind of in the speculative phase, but I thought the way that Max had said it was that there were ways to get above it.
I think he's my recollection of it may be off. Obviously, I was actually recording and trying to do stuff, so I might be off. But I believe his words were, "There are ways to increase it."
Yeah, but that's all he said. So he was kind of.
I believe they also said that the maximum pilot skill is now 6. So it's semantics in that the maximum printed value in X-Wing 1.0 is 9. The maximum is 11.
The maximum is 12, my friend.
12.
I was going to say, there are 2 pilots that I'm aware of off the top of my head that can do that on that. But anyway, that's
that Hawk that Logan would fly all the time.
Rock Garnet and the TIE Fighter pilot. No, yeah.
And he only functioned in one phase of the game at Pilot Tail 12.
Yeah.
Until he took damage.
The other thing I want to point out, it's important to note that we are moving away from a 200-point game or a 100-point game and into a 200-point game, but relax, it's the same scale. I loved, you can tell the computer nerd in the design guy in me understood completely what he was talking about when Frank says, well, we needed half points. Well, what does half points mean? It means that if they were designing an upgrade and at 4 points it was too expensive and 3 points it was too cheap, they didn't have the design room to say, well, this is 3.5 points. So by increasing the point level of the game to 200 points, they've basically given themselves those half points. Yeah. So Alex David, directly out of his mouth, had said a TIE Fighter Academy Pilot was 12 points in first edition. It's now 24 points to start in second edition.
Yeah.
So you're not really losing or gaining anything by changing it from 100 to 200. However, I will point out that Frank had mentioned in the Hyperspace report that this gives us some wiggle room to maybe adjust those levels for tournament play. And that is something that I've been kind of clamoring for some time. The 100-point dogfight. It's midnight. This is, you can tell I'm getting tired. The 100-point dogfight thing is something that we obviously, from the beginning to end, with the exception of Epic Games, played at infinitum from Wave 1 to Wave 13. Never altered or played in that space unless you're playing Epic Games. This gives them that opportunity. If they want, they can make tournaments 250 points or 225. And I don't know if he was referring specifically to the you can create your own event part of the OP app, or if they were thinking more of an official capacity if they decided to adjust those levels. But I like that the space is there now and they're thinking about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they made it a little bit more difficult than what it needed to be. I mean, instead of just sitting there going, okay, so we're going to make everything point-wise change, they could have just made the things that needed to be changed
half points.
So
I don't know if
there's nothing printed on the card, so
right.
Someone still has to write on the card how much it costs, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. I mean, if you're using the app and all that, I mean, you could program it to be like, okay, well, this is 3.5 points for this upgrade, or instead of changing everything altogether, they could have just changed what needed change.
We do know as well that half points for everything is a thing. So if you have half points and ship is at half points. Yeah.
So small base ships you get half points for now.
Yeah, and medium base.
Oh, thank God.
Why? Because you can't do math.
I can't tell you the...
You can't do math if you've got 3.5 points needs half in.
Yeah, you go down to
quarter points.
Yeah. But thank God that they've changed it. That's one of the things I've always felt like. If I've got a 45-point small base ship and you've got a 22-point large base or a 25-point in the contract itself, and I do half damage, I get half, but you can have me down to one hull and you get nothing. Thank goodness that's gone, because that's always driven me crazy. One of the other things that just dawned on me, because we're talking about base sizes, to double back for a moment on ion tokens and how they functions. It's to be ionized, it's for a small base ship, it's 1, medium base ship, it's 2, large base ships, it's 3. So I want to make sure I touched on that.
Do you want to, seeing as you're going through tokens as well, have we covered focus tokens and evade tokens and reinforce tokens and how they work?
We've not. By all means, I'll let you lead on this one.
So focus tokens work, from what I understand, as they do now. The force charges, or whatever it's going to be called, I can't remember, function like a focus token but only affect one die, which is what Sean was talking about earlier. And then evade does not add an evade result. See, I'm just going to let charge simmer a little bit. So it changes one of your dice to an evade. So it is like a Palpatine
That is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know if Chad's simmering or if he's like elated.
Well, I mean,
spit it out, man.
They've kind of tore apart a lot of the stuff that I did. Like I liked Soontir. You know, it's like, okay, so I've got all my dice and I got an evade token, and now it's like.
Did you like your Soontir shooting at somebody else's Soontir when they had focus evade, range 3, Palpatine, auto thrusters?
Oh God.
Well, no, I never.
There you go.
No,
No, nobody enjoyed that.
I never did that. I mean, I would obviously go for the other ships, and then once Soontir's got like a lot of his like abilities gone and all that, then you would go after Soontir.
So they said in the design, I think it was the thing that basically they're looking for things to die and damage to stick. So ships have like lost shields and gained hull because they want damage to stick.
Yeah, I wanted to point that one out too.
Yeah.
You're right. They adjusted the shield to hull ratio in a lot of ships, so it's less shields, more hull, so that your crits are getting through and actually doing more damage.
And that you.
Oh, my ships take damage as it is. I mean, they didn't need to adjust that.
They didn't even help there.
No.
And then the reinforced token reduces the number of hits by 1 to a minimum of 1. So no more Ulrich giving some A-wing reinforced token that's got an evade, and you get all of this perfect information to, okay, you got 0. Reinforced can only take you down to a minimum of 1.
So 1 still has to come at you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you reinforce, you will still be taking 1 damage, if that is your only form of defense.
And I think, too, that'll help the game, like, to move games along. There's a lot of games that go to time just because you can't hit ships. And when you make it so that the evade now doesn't add a result, but it just changes a die, that's a huge difference, actually, because of all the mentioned abilities that you have around you. I think that'll help with some of the games that just get clogged up in the action economy and all of that. It actually changes the action economy.
Do you know about the big nerf? So the big nerf is now even more of a nerf than the old big nerf. So while another friendly ship at range 0 to 1 defends before a neutralize result step, because it's different to comparing results, if you are in the attack arc, you may suffer 1 hit or crit damage to cancel 1 matching result. So it's only 1. Bigs can only pull 1 hit off another ship. So it's like draw their fire.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they functionate similar to how draw their fire used to.
So, yeah, he's only pulling 1, but he has to automatically suffer that. It's not where before he had the ability to roll to evade it. Now he's just taking it.
Yeah. You're not shooting bigs. He just flies in the way.
Okay.
It's like a goalkeeper, a goalie.
Heck yeah. Although you're talking soccer, not hockey.
I was going hockey. Because I'm Canadian
look at
now.
That's right. The Canadian stick is sticking out.
I was going to say big fat goalie, and then I'm not fat. I just got a sweet hockey body.
I was going to say that you understand he doesn't call it soccer; he calls it football.
I call it soccer now. There's no point. I'm done.
I'm losing that fight on North America.
Gave up.
All right, so mechanics and rules-wise, is there anything more that you want to cover? Because there's some stuff I do want to touch on from the OP side that they covered that I really liked and really want to cover. But is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you feel that we should?
So we covered charges. One I'd like to bring up is obviously like the regen is now charge-based as well. So Rebels are still going to have even more access to regen. The standard R2 Astromech can regen you 2 shields because it's got 2 charges on it. But you do suffer a weapon disabled token to do it. So you can't fire when you do it. You can close your S-files and run away. Focus and boost, use your charges, do all of that stuff. But your offense is seriously going to take a hit. What was the other stuff? Yeah, so that's
but he can only do that twice per game. Like, you're not doing it in a Miranda style, I'm just going to recharge my shields infinitum and you're never going to get anything off. Once those 2 charges are gone, unless there's a way to bring them back, that you've built into the list, they're done.
Yeah. So 4 charges on ordnance. Reload is obviously still an action, but it only reloads one type of ordnance.
Yeah, and the Y-Wing comes standard with reload.
Yeah. The Horton Salem has an EPT.
Oh, thank God.
We have, what else was there?
Not an EPT, just a T.
Bombs and mines are distinct. There is no such thing as an action bomb anymore. There are mines and bombs. You can only reload bombs. Mines cannot be reloaded. And they happen in the systems phase.
Which is the phase, further clarification, it's the phase after activation, but before the combat phase, correct?
I don't know.
There is an additional phase.
I can't remember if it is after planning and before activation, because things like advanced sensors are systems
that's right. Yeah, I think
well.
you might be right. You might be right there.
So I believe it is before people move. I don't know. I can't remember. I've not.
It's whatever it is. It's before dials are turned, but after planning is done.
Yeah.
It's in between that step right there.
Yeah, I think that's when it is. I think it is the advanced sensors type phase that kind of timing window is happening. What else?
Seismic charges blow up debris and asteroids.
I've not heard that, so that's new to me.
So in the game that Alex Davey played on Team Covenant's stream, they never actually got to do it because the Y-Wing died so early in the game. However, before the game started, he was describing how seismic charge worked. And seismic charge attached itself to an obstacle or an object. I think object is kind of the generic term for that kind of stuff now. Attached itself to an object, does 1 damage to anything within range 1 of that object, and then removes it off the board. So you now have the ability with seismic charges to be able to clear the battlefield and blow up obstacles. What used to be obstacles in
so, right, seismic torpedo functionality type thing.
Right, exactly. Okay. Again, something they played with later on in the design phase of I keep wanting to say season 1.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say in first edition, that now they've just migrated over into second edition.
One other point, I think we touched on barrel rolls when we're talking about templates, but barrel roll is being purposefully nerfed to reduce its arc dodging potential. It's supposed to be more on the dial you place rather than having multiple repositions.
So no more of that, I'm going to butt up right up against the rock but not actually touch the rock thing? Yeah. That's all good? Yeah.
Yeah. And
have you heard how they're doing it for medium and large base ships? Because I know that they had mentioned that that's supposed to help curb that.
I believe medium and large still go side of the template, which is why the one has a line down the center lengthways and horizontally. So I believe the medium and the large is definitely the same. I'm more than confident to say definitely the same, because to change it back would, to do anything else. Yeah. But I believe that mediums will be that way as well.
Excellent.
Target locks. You only have a red target lock now. You don't have a blue token. They are numbered. So the target locks are all numbered rather than lettered. And they match up with the
no
numbers.
More PP on your ship, Chad.
Yeah, I enjoy placing PP on other people's ships.
Well, that is okay, because it just means that when you mark your ship, you, instead of using numbers, you use your old target lock tokens and place them in the bases.
Numbers, if you use all named ships,
it reduces clutter on the table, but obviously both the sides of the numbers are still different colors. So you've got a white 7 and a black 7. And for the red target lock token, you have a black 7 and a white 7.
Yeah. So you'd still, even if you have Darth Vader, and you would still put a number on him, and then that's the target lock that he's going to be using.
Yeah.
So functionally, every ship should have those numbers on them.
And I've been placing my target locks to identify my ships for a long time anyway. I think it's relatively standard practice that people do that instead of numbering the ships.
Unless you have the acrylic ones and that don't do that.
Well, yeah, suck less. Or,
so then you're like...
Or suck more so you don't win acrylic target lock tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the only non-acrylic one I like to use is like I said, is PP, because I like to mark other people's ships with PP.
I like QQ.
GG.
Yeah. All the doubles. KK.
Okay. Any other mechanics that we're missing?
Not that I can remember. It's getting late, and I've don't.
It's not made
The one that I wanted to chat to Chad for was Calf Scarlet. In the Scum spoiler, there is, again, on the third spread in the article, you have the Marauder title, which is Calf Scarlet's fire spray.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
So
now, you do recognize, of course, however, she was they removed the fire spray from the Imperials.
yes.
Yeah.
It was always one of those weird things, like, yeah, Boba Fett worked for the Empire, but he was always a bounty hunter, and it never...
Well, Scum wasn't a thing whenever they brought the ship out.
Right, but you totally understood why they did it, because they went, okay, we need to get Boba Fett and Han Solo in the game.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. Like, I totally understand why they did it at the time, but after...
It was the iconic, the iconic side of it. They had to do it just because, number one, Boba Fett is such a beloved character.
Exactly.
So I'm just looking now. The fire spray gets a red reinforce action instead of an evade.
Does it have a hard one? That's the question. On the
if the dialer is in this, let me read the article. I'm going to say
they
yes.
Might not have seen it.
Because there is a Boba Fett, a Crassus, an Iman Azamine, and then some other upgrades to do with fire sprays and a revealed dial. So it looks like the fire spray has a hard one, a blue 1 banks and 1 forwards. The 2s with the straight being blue. It has the 3s with a 3 Talon roll. No 3 hard.
Oh, nice.
A 3 bank and a 3 straight being blue. Then a 4 forwards and a 4K. And it is on a medium base. So it will fly completely differently to what you're expecting it to.
Yeah, it's going to be a completely different ship.
And the Fang Fighter spins.
Yeah.
I know. I can't wait to see that. That's going to be one of those things, like, so especially with those new sculpts. There's going to be ones that come out, like the Y-Wing, for example, which is going to be the first one that I'm going to point out. Probably the X-Wing, too. Although I'm going to get 2 X-Wings since I'm going to be buying 2 core sets anyway, so I might not need to get the expansion itself.
No, if you're getting a conversion set, you don't need the expansion.
Right, exactly. So if I'm getting 2 core sets and I'm getting the conversion kits, I should have enough to get enough X-Wings to do what I want to do.
The only X-Wings that you wouldn't have access to would be the ones from Swords Renegades. That's the only stuff that won't be in that pack, because Swords Renegades comes with V1 and V2 content.
Yeah, interesting call on their part. I like that they did that, because they knew ahead of time, well, we're just going to make them already compatible. So they're going to come into the game. So you'll get a sneak preview whenever Swords Renegades come out. And what is the TIE ship? I keep saying the TIE ship.
Reaper.
What?
The TIE Reaper.
The Reaper. Thank you. I keep forgetting that title. So when those 2 ships come in Wave 14, which will still be in first edition, they will have all of their second edition content with them. So you'll get kind of a sneak preview of how those ships are going to function in second edition.
Okay, so you wanted to just talk about OP? Is that the last point?
I'm going to pull up that image that you showed me on how organized play is going to work from this point forward. Gone are the days, it looked like, of the season that we used to know as X-Wing, which went from store championships to regionals to nationals to worlds. They're still sort of in there. They've taken some different titles and different names, and they have different functions. There's still going to be seasonal kits, which are your basically monthly kits. Although the way that Zach talked about it in the hyperspace thing was that they would come with enough content for 3 events, so you could theoretically do something once a week in those seasonal kits, and even the ones that are going to be coming out post Worlds are going to have stuff from first edition and second.
The Worlds card, the Fenray that they spoiled, is actually double-sided.
Oh, that's hot.
So the Fenray card they spoiled that had the Protectorate and Fearlessness or whatever it was. It was one of the 2 upgrade Fenray cards. The other side of it is alternate art Fenro 4 2.0. So
is that the first official second edition alt art card?
Yep.
That's awesome. And those are at Worlds only?
Yep. Well,
no, because
so what we normally do, or what we currently were doing, was the Worlds card has a World symbol on it, and then it will roll into the Store Champ kit, I believe.
Mm-hmm. But have a different symbol because it won't do the Worlds card.
Yeah.
So if you still want the alt art, but you couldn't make it to Worlds, then you still have that shot.
Yeah.
But you're still
Chris could just bring us some.
Chris isn't playing enough events to get prizes.
Oh, you can't here on a press pass. For one?
No. It's a whole new world out here. The Wild West of yesteryear is gone.
Could you just do me a favor and ask Wade to rip up an alt art card in front of you, please? That's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And the funniest thing I can share this. I don't know if I ever shared it on the original Nova Squadron radio. I'll share it here, where someone had come up to Wade while we're sitting at Worlds. We were in between taping the show and taping interviews, and somebody had come up and said they had gotten an alt art Luke Skywalker, and it never, it was bent or was damaged in some way, and he was asking if he can get a replacement. And Wade literally took the card from the guy, shredded it into pieces, and threw it on the floor, and just kind of sat there and didn't do anything. It was so hysterical to see.
Wade's a funny guy.
Yeah, he is. Wade's awesome. But in any case, so you've got seasonal kits, but then you've got the deluxe wave kits. Now, this is something that I only ever saw them do twice. They did it when Wave 2 released, and it was kind of a bumper event because they didn't have enough stock. The Kessel Run, with whenever Wave 2 released. But then they did it again for Wave 4, which was...
Imdar Alpha.
Imdar Alpha, thank you.
Because we wrecked on that.
We wrecked house on that event. But you got to win the ships weeks before they were available to the public, but you were forced to use the list to play with them. That was super fun. It looks like those are coming back.
Well, so, we don't know that you'll get to win ships.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm saying that the Imdar Alpha event was out.
I'm just clarifying for excited people who want free stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know that that's how they're going to do in this one. That's what was happening with Imdar Alpha when Wave 4 was pre-released, so to speak. I'm going back to the Magic the Gathering kind of thing. But they're going back to these deluxe wave kits whenever a new wave comes out. So I don't know when that starts, so I don't know if there's going to be one for Wave.
There is one for Wave 1, which should have been told. It's actually in the Q&A part, I believe. Zach talks about it.
No, I know Wave 1. I was talking Wave 14.
Oh, sorry. No.
So there's not going to be...
They are tied into the quick build cards, I believe, that you get told the selection of quick builds you can do. Because, for example, the one for the Wave 1 launch is supposed to be tied around the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to... I'm sure there won't be one squad you have to fly, but there'll be like Black Squadron, there'll be with Vader, there'll be like Luke, Wedge, Garvin, and Biggs. So just, you know what I mean? There will be lots of themed stuff.
Morgans, Jack Morgans. Jack's back in the game, homie.
Jack
still does the same thing.
Jack holds it real well for Alex. No spoilers.
He does. But moving forward, so that's kind of like, I don't want to say that they're replacing store championships because there doesn't seem to be an equivalent in those. You've got the wave kits that there's kind of a fun event you can, and then you've got the seasonal kits, which are like your monthly tournament kits. And then you move up to the next level in organized play, which are the system opens, which they're going to be expanding to no longer just being North America and Europe. I know that there was a huge uproar from that. More details to come on how those are going to work. What used to be regional events are moving into hyperspace events. Also on these, they're being more inclusive and allowing more stores to apply. They're no longer regional. They remove the word regional. So you can almost have these virtually anywhere as long as you have the space and the capacity to do so.
Any store can apply for a hyperspace trial as long as you meet the criteria. The criteria will be defined by the region within that store is located. So it will, from what I've been told and spoken to about it, is to do with the size of the community and the number of events, like your capacity and timings. Can you physically run the event in your store? Yes. Then you can get a kit.
So the question I have, though, is are these... I know that he said he used regionals, but since store champion... Like, there were some store champions that we went to that were the size of regionals in other areas. Like, specifically, like, right off the top of my head, Mr. Nice Guys.
Mr. Nice Guys.
Like, their store championship had, like, 80 players. Like, it was ridiculous. So I'm curious if the criteria for that is more geared toward we're looking towards 60 plus players for regional size, or are we talking at minimum of
it
10?
It will vary depending on the region.
So because Pittsburgh, they have like dozens of store championships,
but only one.
They would only get the one regional. So with this, it sounds like Mr. Nice Guys is still going to be your hyperspace trials, but like all the other places where like, oh, just because everybody could do a store championship, that's not going to be the case when it comes to hyperspace trials, because this place might only hold 12 people, but you know.
So yeah, it depends very much on the location you are in.
Right.
Because if you say 64 players, I ran the biggest regional in Alberta this year, and it was like 50 people. It's the biggest one Alberta's ever seen. The community's still growing, but that's at 50 because people are traveling from like 7, 8, 9 hours to get there because the population density in Canada isn't there. So
I guess the reasoning for my question though for this is it going to be more a expected regional size or expected store championship size? These are your invites into Worlds.
Pardon me. It will go off the data they collect because by OP are taking the data back from the stores. Sorry. So when they do, look at the numbers, if the events in that location are getting 40, 50 people regularly, and you can only host 12, you probably won't qualify. If the events are getting 12 people regularly and you can only host 12, maybe you will qualify. But the other way it was phrased, it might have been more the way it was said rather than what was said, but I believe that the price of these kits will be regional pricing, like regional kit prices, which limits the number of stores who can buy them anyway, because you need a given number of players without charging an exorbitant rate to play in the event to actually pay for that kit.
But it's a $45 buy.
Yeah.
Well, see, now another thing
I don't know. I have no idea what the kits are cost. I'm literally just pulling that completely out of my butt.
So one of the things I'm kind of curious as to is like, so it's based on your quote unquote region and all that. So a store like Latrobe, for example, are we going to get lumped in with Pittsburgh because that's the closest city, or are they going to actually acknowledge that we're about 30 to 40 some miles away from Pittsburgh, and the amount of people we actually get into the area, right, is not what they get? That's what I'm kind of curious as to, because if that comes into play, then you'll see some areas where, you'll have these smaller stores hosting these things just because it's a different, area, and that's not what they normally,
And I think that kind of goes. It's one of the fun things about what used to be the store championship.
So remember, it isn't your entry into Worlds. We're jumping ahead here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because that gets you a reserved spot in nationals, or the qualifier for a World Championships, which is held at Gen Con, I want to say.
That's interesting because that's not on the graphic that they put up, so I was curious.
So Worlds is now the top 8 from nationals or whatever it is, or the top 8 from Gen Con or Adept. I can't even remember which one, but the World's final is going to be taken, and it will be these people get invited with the flights and accommodation paid for.
So what that does is I have to put it. There's so much to unpack with that statement. One, it moves Worlds away from the FFG Center to wherever they're holding Star Wars.
No, it will be held at the FFG Center.
Oh, will still be.
It will be its own special event, X-Wing only Worlds, that is invite only for the best players.
but it also means that you need to win your way in.
Yeah.
And it eliminates the lottery system. It eliminates all of that. So there are some ups and downs on that one. First of all, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't tie too much onto any of this yet, because all of this is the information we've been given.
Oh no, I know.
We haven't seen it executed yet,
and we also haven't seen it in print.
Yeah.
Well, if you go by like what Legion, they kind of put the same thing out for Legion. It's going to be the same.
I believe it is a Legion format that they're looking at. You are exactly right, Sean.
And with that, my concern, and it's the only one that I have with this, because you guys know, and I've said it many, many times, that Worlds should have always been an invite. There never should have been the weird cut that they do, the graduated cut. It should have been a cut to, tops, if they had it, top 64, and then it's single elimination, so on and so forth. And I'm not going to go there because this isn't where I want to be in this new world of X-Wing. But I think one of the problems that I see, Worlds is an event, and it brings in lots of players. And the problem is the games are so popular, and they have so many Star Wars games now that they can't continue to do it the way that they were. But my number one concern, though, is that you're going to put a strain on the community, and you're going to have a certain group of players that are always making this because they can afford to travel that much. They can afford to, they're afforded the time off work to be able to do it. And you're really taking this large pool of people and moving it down to a very smaller group of people because of that factor. Look at the complaints, just people complaining about $50,
So what I'd say, Sean, on do you feel like with the way Worlds was ran this year with the lottery system and the timings that the tickets were announced and the timings for the second wave, the number of complaints I saw this year of people saying that they can't justify paying for the flights and the accommodation, and then the prices are going up. So I feel like that I agree that concern is the same, but I feel like it's the same concern I have with the way the event was run this year, and that it just has slid who and how it affects people. It's still the same effect, but just in a different way, I suppose.
Well, it all depends how you view. It all depends how you view location, because what they're doing is they're taking the location away from Fantasy Flight Game Center and doing it either at Gen Con or at Adepticon or wherever they're going to do it, Nova or whatever venue they choose to do it.
Yeah.
So the main piece of this will no longer be at Fantasy Flight. You're not going to have 200 people there to play X-Wing. You're going to have the 8 people.
The good thing I feel about it, and again, we don't know if there's going to be additional events going on in addition to those 8 people being invited. We don't know. That hasn't been said. There might be a Star Wars, a celebration of X-Wing, where you can come and play X-Wing and do hangar bays and pods and all of that. We honestly, we don't know. But it takes away X-Wing from the May track of Worlds. So Destiny, Armada, Imperial Assault look like they're staying in that slot. So I find it really interesting. I can't comment on whether it is the correct, right decision. Whether we don't have enough information yet. But I'm still fairly excited about it.
Well, I think what it does, though, and where I'm coming from, is that you're going to have, so let's say, as an example, one of these events or the event is held at Adepticon in Chicago. Okay? Well, you're going to have all the locals who are going to be able to make it. But, how many people from the West Coast or other parts, like for me, I could make it because it's an 8-hour drive. It's really not a difficult trip to make. Same with going up to Minnesota. But you have a lot of people that can't make that, who potentially could, qualify for that, one of the 8 seats or however many seats they're going to have. But the barrier is put in place because it's that type of travel.
From how I gather it was explained, is at that, well, I'm going to say Gen Con, but I cannot remember if it's Adepticon or Gen Con. I'm just going to pick one for the sake of making the conversation easier. So at Gen Con, there will be a last chance qualifier that is open invitation. Anyone can apply for it and try and buy a ticket as you can with a normal event now. The actual one that qualifies you for Worlds is also invite only. You have to have won your System Open or your Hyperspace qualifier.
And I like that. I actually like that. But I also liked the way that they did it. And really, they should have shut it down at the regionals. They could have done the same thing in the old system, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Where you had the regional event, which is what would have been I'm going to say the AQ for it, where if you have 40 regionals in the United States and you have 32 across the rest of the world, that's 72 players you're bringing in to run a tournament. It's the exact same thing. Or potential players, I get what they're doing because it does step it up a little bit where whatever the qualifier point is, they're paying the way of these people. They're, giving them lodging, all of that. So that's cool. I really enjoy that. My major concern is you're going to see the same people year in and year out because they can afford to be able to do the, wherever you stick this at, if it's at Gen Con, if it's at Adepticon. I think Legion is at Adepticon, Chris.
It's probably the same one then.
It might be.
I don't think that's any different to now. The people, so you only have to look at the rankings thing. I don't even know the person who does it off the top of my head now. It's getting late. But the people who are high up in the rankings are people who can travel to lots of regionals, attend lots of events, the different system opens. Being able to travel to those is what gets you the prestige of being a high-level X-Wing player at the moment. I will never be able to go to a Star Wars celebration under a current system. And I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I don't think it's any more of a problem than the problem we have currently.
Well, you're correct. I mean, it's a different problem with a different view of it. But yeah, with the regional winners, having the amount of regionals, having the winners, and I'm not knocking what they're doing. I think it's great because I've always been a proponent for this type of system. But number one, I think it's going to be a shock to the system for some people. You win a regional. Under the old system, you'll win a regional and you have a guaranteed ticket, somewhere. You have a guaranteed ticket somewhere. And then with this now, I mean, you're really limiting and creating a limited community to where if the rest of the events that are up there, it's just going to be the locals. It's going to be more of the locals and the people who, are the, fringe fans or however you want to put it of the X-Wing community that will be able to show up there, but it takes a lot away. The X-Wing events, going up in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2017, it was just awesome because the community that is built around the world's portion of it is incredible too. And this goes back to community more so than tournament. That's what will be missed. That's actually what this will take away from X-Wing in that one event where all you get up there, not being there this year, it doesn't bother me right now, but it will afterwards because I don't get to see my friends. I don't get to see the people, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
And that's it. I don't feel like I can make that call yet because we don't know, other than the official competitors, we don't know. We don't know if there's still going to be X-Wing played in May. We don't know. We don't know if there's going to be additional X-Wing played in their October, I think they said, in their October Worlds event, at Worlds final event.
So we're going to end up actually with 2 Worlds in 2018 for X-Wing. We're going to have this one right now where you're at currently, Chris, that's going to button up the first edition of X-Wing. and then we'll have another one in October. So I think we'll kind of move on from OP for the moment. The more details that come out, we'll obviously continue to re-examine. But as in typical Nova Squadron Radio fashion, we are now into the 1 a.m. mark, Eastern Standard Times. So we're going to kind of button up the show. So we're going to go on to close out the show right after this. All right, so I want to thank everyone for coming in for this faux episode of Nova Squadron Radio. Moving forward, I think this is something that Kris, Sean, myself, and Chad have kind of discussed, and we'd like to kind of get back to. This is something we've all missed. This has been great fun. So moving forward, of course, we're going to be moving under the banner of the DiceHate podcast. But it was kind of fun to revisit some old memories and old times, recording a quote-unquote Nova Squadron Radio episode. So we will be kind of moving on to that format, and we're going to try to be the hub for second edition. Anything that comes out in the next 2 weeks, we're going to cover, kind of keep up to post. I'm sure that FFG is going to slowly bleed us from now until September's release, or at least until we get till Gen Con, on some information. So the more details that come out, we're going to continue on. And of course, I'm still going to continue to play first edition until its end. I still need to get better with my pilot. So I do want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. Chad, wait, I've got to wait. That's where my first mistake is. You're the last one. Kris, always want to thank you. Always good to talk to you, my friend.
It's good to chat to you again, Ed. It's been really good fun having you all on. And like I said, if we do continue doing this, whether it's under Nova, NSR, DiceHate, whatever we decide to do, Ed's still going to be the host for this show. It's still his baby. And I'm more than happy to let Chad beat him up and that abusive relationship to continue.
Yeah, physically too. He's sitting right beside me, so that is going to happen.
Yeah, it's been awesome catching up with you as well, Sean. Not managed to speak as much as we not used to, so it's always good to just chat with friends about X-Wing.
Absolutely. Sean, always good to talk to you. This is the first I've heard your voice in a long time, so we've kept in touch during that time frame, but now that I know that I get to talk to you every couple of weeks, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. And, I know that for me, there's people out there. I'm going to tell you, it's been a weird experience being away from the show, because I left the show before the show ended, or, before everything happened.
Before it ended, it's fine.
Yeah, before it ended, it's a fair assessment.
But for me, what's really weird is the people that still come up to me at events. And, right now I'm not playing X-Wing, and I officially retired completely from X-Wing 1.0. And now, and Ed and I had talked about this, and Kris and I had talked about this before, about if they ever did a 2.0, that depending upon the way that they did it, I would come back to the game. I'm never going to run an event again. I'm done with that.
No more X-Wing TO, man.
No. Whoever wants that moniker can have it. But, my big thing is community and game. Let's just have fun with this. Let's enjoy it. And being on DiceHate too. So if we do go, the DiceHate route, we can have an edgier show.
Absolutely. We did try to keep things toned down. The whole idea behind this episode was to build a little nostalgia. But moving forward, we're going to have different formats. Obviously, we didn't do we did the show as if we were doing our old show. Moving forward, format changes, things like that. All of that's going to be coming up. We still haven't actually kind of hammered out the details, because to be perfectly honest with you, this was something that was on the fly. Kris said, hey, we should do this. And we're like, yeah, we should do this. And here we are.
We were chatting about it before just as they announced the hyperspace report. And obviously one of the rumors going around amongst there'll be loads of Destiny news and Legion factions being announced, or a new version of Armada. One of the rumors was it could be X-Wing 2.0. And I said to Ed, we should do a satirical, throwback episode, get the old gang together. We reached out to a few cast members and see who's up for having a laugh, and just self-deprecating, reading out the cards, and just trying to make it a little bit of throwback to how X-Wing podcasting used to be done. I don't necessarily think that is the way we would 100% continue with it, but
no, I don't think so. I think there's going to be some shit. But I think the interesting part to that was when we all kind of get together with the idea of doing kind of a jokey kind of episode. Everyone's like, yeah, we should keep doing this. It's something I've missed. It's something from my life that I've missed that used to be every Thursday night or every other Thursday night. Like I get to talk to my buddies and talk X-Wing. Some of the coolest experiences of my life was going to Worlds and hanging out with Sean, meeting Kris at Nova, and hanging out with Bob whenever Bob came up for regionals. Like a lot of the things around my X-Wing life in first edition that I enjoyed didn't necessarily involve and I got to hang out and talk to you, but I see you all the time. But to be able to do some of these things doesn't necessarily mean what event you were attending or how well you did at the event. I know we were a competitive one. I know we talked about tournaments a lot, but it was the people, the interactions, and all of those good, and meeting these good friends. I'm still friends with, even after Nova folded, we still talk and still chat. So to be able to strike this back up has just sparked that nostalgia, and now we've got second edition to talk about, and everyone's excited. So this is something I think we're going to stick with for a while. So, Chad, I'm going to turn it over to you. Always good podcasting with you, my friend.
Oh, definitely, always. Want to go ahead and say thank you to all the fans. Keep sending us those Facebook messages and emails.
That would be our DiceHate ones now, just to make sure we're on the same line.
Hey, I'm doing the old thing, all right? Leave me be.
I think the Nova page is still up. I think it's still up.
Really the NSR cast page is still up.
No, I think the NSR one's gone, but the actual old Nova Squadron radio page, I believe, is still up.
Oh, okay. You all send us your messages, send us your emails, give us some more likes, and we'll let you know where you can go with the new likes and everything. And hey, let's try and get DiceHate more likes than what we got with the Nova stuff. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. In 2 weeks, we're going to try to, whatever this podcast decides to turn into, we're going to try to get this together for a full episode 1 of that one. But until then, guys, as always, fly casual.